step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood so I am relentless.
All right, here we're the Keep Hammering Collective with Tristan Hamm and Stefi Cohen. How are you guys?
Feeling it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wrecked.
We had a great lift, run, shoot day yesterday.
Yeah.
And you've been to Oregon. Have you been to Oregon before?
No, first time. I've actually always wanted to come here.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've always heard great things about here, just how beautiful it is and how much there is to do in nature. And so far,
Yeah.
exceeded my expectations.
We're going to rip up to Bend today.
Yeah?
So it'll be beautiful up there.
What's the plans there?
Probably do some mountain biking. We were trying to do some mountain biking in Whistler, but we just ran out of time because we had to get down here to you. So,
Well,
so we had
thank
to
you.
fly back to Whistler, but
Yeah.
no.
I heard Whistler's beautiful also.
Oh, Whistler's a vibe.
Yeah, I haven't been there.
You haven't
Or
been to
wait,
Whistler?
I don't know. I flew up there one time. It's in BC, right?
Yeah. Just outside of Vancouver, about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I went up there because they were doing a reality show, and I was on the pilot for the reality show. And mountain bike, there's what is the guy? They call him the Bear. He's a mountain biker from up there, Darren somebody.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know him.
these guys were just freaking studs, and there's so many good trails around Vancouver, and we were, to them it was no big deal, but I'm just like pretty steep, pretty ruddy. It was fun though.
You know, like you were just bear hunting in Alberta. You know, like the vibe of Canada generally, if you're not in Toronto or Vancouver, these hot spots, it's like, it's clearly that you're in Canada, right? Like everyone's got that real good accent there, eh, bud? Like they're going to go smoke a dart in the bush.
Yeah.
But then you go to Vancouver and more specifically Whistler, and you feel like you're in the U.S. Like
Really?
it does not feel like you're in Canada.
Yeah, it's very
to me.
much Americanized. And you were right. You hit it right in the head when you said that it seems like Park City.
Yeah.
Or it feels like Park City.
Totally feels like Park City.
Yeah.
You spent time in Park City, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
true. It's in
Just
Salt
like
Lake.
a resort town kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
walk
bougie,
around.
you know.
Yeah.
Bougie.
Cool stores, good
Nice
restaurants.
shopping.
Everything's stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Park City's ridiculously expensive, dude.
Everybody's just like in shape and like nice clothes and walking around.
There's nothing but Cam Hanes walking around everywhere in Park City.
no.
It's a bunch of retired guys that had a bunch of solar companies, and they all sold them for $350 million, and they're just running and they're biking and they're jacked.
It's so true, though.
It's so true.
You saw me, I'm just like an old small town bow hunter.
Yeah, you're also very humble about that because you're a little bit more than that. But I think we all can attest.
Well, it's great having you guys here. I mean, it was, I don't really know how it came to be, but other than social media,
Yeah.
I mean, we got to thank we can cuss social media for a lot of things, but also it brings a lot of people together.
It really does. It brought us together.
Yeah.
You know, so it's social media is a huge thing. It got a bad rap for a long time, especially the influencer world. But it's cool to see it all coming full circle and everybody kind of getting on board. And it definitely brings people together. It's a way for people to connect on a way it never was able to before. And I think that if you're able to use it, like I like to use social media to like connect with my followers, like literally meet them in person. So that's really cool. You get to see who you inspire, and you're able to inspire people that are also become influencers or that already have influence of some sort. And the word influencer is, I think, abused a lot. But at the end of the day, we're all influencers of one level, to our kids or to our parents even, or to our friends. And you were a huge influence to me. And I mean, I've been able to tap into a whole side of my life that I didn't know existed without your influence. And so
man,
if
that's
that doesn't
awesome.
tell you something. You
Yeah,
know? And
I mean-
now I'm going to run with that, and help millions more.
Yeah. I saw the videos. You had the Cam Hanes boots on, and you ran in the shoes yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I saw you shooting a bow, and you definitely have cool content. I didn't really know. It's weird because it's like most of the time people like find their way to influence, if you want to use that word, through something else. You know what I mean? Because I knew Stefi from lifting.
Yep.
And then I was just like, I guess, how did you find your way to influence?
Yeah, my way was found through I wanted to wake up doing what I loved every single day, and I didn't know how to do that. So, but I started in a small town and lived out in Manitoba, Canada, and then I joined the pipelines and started working my ass off there and in the oil fields.
How long did you do that?
About 8 years. Yeah. And worked my way up, became a foreman, really paid my dues, but got ahead of the game a lot faster than most. I mean, every other foreman ever there was in their 50s, 60s, Here I am at 18, 19-year-old, telling guys that are 6 times my age what to do,
Yeah.
So, that was huge because it taught me grit and taught me resilience and how to endure. And, but I learned to fall in love with that because the money was bomb, but I knew that's not what I want to do for forever. And I knew it was a matter of time before I had to get out, and I had to get out sooner rather than later. So started using some of that money to spend on just travel for myself. And I'm like, wow, imagine if I could do this for a living. And that's right around the time that social media started to take some momentum and but it was right out of the gate too, right? So right as I started making money on the pipeline, I was like, all right, let's put this money to work and start traveling and in between my jobs. So I worked 2 months on, 3 months on, and then take 2-3 weeks off. Started traveling to Hawaii, fell in love with Hawaii, got welcomed in by the locals. They taught me a whole side of culture that I didn't even know existed before. They showed me both the good and the bad side. And just fell in love with that process, started inviting my friends down to come with me. I loved including them in it, taking them on these adventures and shit. And then one day a friend just tapped me on the shoulder and he's like, hey, I want to start this club where we take people on adventures like we've been doing. Do you want to get involved? And I'm like, that'd be sick. Let's do something like that. And then we tried to make it into a business a few times, didn't really work together too well because we kept bringing in the wrong partners. Finally, I'm just going to try to do this little thing on my own, So I started making this business where we were taking people on adventures and trips, and it's just a little side hustle, just kind of
What was the hiccups? What wasn't working? Is because it takes money to get started?
It takes money to get started, and I was putting a lot of money in, and it was more like a charity than a business. It took me a long time before I realized that, but I knew that if I kept investing, it just felt right. I really believe in following your heart and believing in that thing that drives you, and following it. There's a reason you have that little ticker inside and keeps you going. And I knew that even though I was spending literally all my money on funding other people's experiences and trips on these adventures that I'd taken people on in Hawaii and California at the time, that eventually would pay off and it would lead me to somewhere. And through posting those trips, my Instagram started to grow, right? And I never ever thought I'd hit 1 million or anything like that. I thought it was a cool tool to stay connected in a different type of marketing tool, like Facebook ads, YouTube ads, that type of thing. I didn't really see it as building a community until I started experiencing some negativity in the community. Once you start making an impact, there's a counter to that too. You get a little pushback. And then I was like, well, there's clearly a dark side in the adventure space. There's people that don't want new people in it. There's people that this is my wall. I don't want to share it. And I'm like, well, why don't I make my own community? And when I locked in that mentality to make my own community, that's where it just started to make sense. Everything started to pile together. And that built momentum. That company started to grow. The community started to grow. My social media started to grow. It just started to have influence in my own community. And then that just expanded. And with the different tools and stuff like that and collaborations and stuff, I was able to build every ounce of momentum that I could find. And eventually we got here to having millions of people online. So we're just getting warmed up.
It's weird too how you don't want to tie measurables to people, but I think we do in life, because it's if somebody sends you a message and says, hey, I have this great idea, or do you want to get together and you want to do this thing? It's weird because what you do is you look at, so who is this person? Because you don't know. So you're looking, it's oh, well, they got a lot of followers. Maybe, maybe they're onto something.
You caught my eye.
If they have 50 followers, then you're like, this is just some fucking crazy person.
Yeah.
It's
if they have less than 300, you're like, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, wants to meet up with me, But if that same person has 3 million, then you're like, oh,
they're doing something right.
Maybe this is real or legit, or maybe they're on to something. But it's just you don't want to tie a social credit score type thing to if somebody is legit or not. But it's
it's already happening.
You can't stop it.
You can't stop it.
And so it's just part of us, you know.
And then I was thinking too, it's like, well, that's a weird measure because we said our measurables are followers, but that's how life works because you're measurable. Like for you in lifting weights, that's like if you say, well, I'm a weightlifter, I'm a power lifter. Okay, what? What do you mean? Show me. And then you have, well, I can deadlift this much. That's a measurable.
Yeah, that's fucking measurable. Right
You're
there.
just like saying,
how much is it, by the way?
Yeah.
How much can you?
550.
550 pounds.
550. So it's just like, yeah, it's not followers because every pound is hard earned, but it's still a score.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh, well, if this power lifter who she looks like this and she lifts this, that must mean something.
But then if that same powerlifter doesn't have that million, you know, then it's like, okay, well then why aren't you? If you're so
why don't people know you?
Why don't anybody know you? Is those fake weights?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
I know. Yeah, the fake weights are crazy these days
thing,
too.
dude.
I know.
But-
I had a time period of my powerlifting career where I swear I was lifting, like the thing was lift for the gram, like gram or it didn't happen.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's true. It's like, yeah, if you're not documenting and
facts,
making it public for the world to see, then it didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
Totally, it's so true. But back to what you were saying, I think like naturally everybody has this, even when you're meeting people, and I think it's getting worse, honestly, because of social media. But we have like, we're human lie detectors. Like we right away want to figure out if someone's full of shit or not. And if they seem like they're not full of shit, it seems like society wants to figure out how they're not full of shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like we have this big like this or this. Like so you go on their Instagram account, you see 50 followers, it's this. You know, you see a million, it's like put my arms up. What do we got? And their engagement, they got 1 million followers, but 35 likes. This, they buy their followers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
but why is that? It's because there's a level of competition right now, social competition and financial competition as well to create and sell and push things down people's throats that now people are just skeptical of who
Yeah.
they're listening to.
Exactly.
And rightfully so.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's true. It's because, you know, in the culture of like Los Angeles, for example, anyone can be, it's like the culture in general in the United States, like you can become anything you want, but you go to hot spots like LA and they got a bad rap. And you got a bunch of people that, you know, are from Arkansas or something like that. And they just weren't really liked in their towns or they didn't really get anything, any momentum. And they moved to somewhere like LA. And I've experienced a lot of people like this there. And it's like, they roll up and they just like, well, I guess I could be whatever I want. I could just say whatever I want.
Yeah.
I could pretend I'm something that I'm not.
Yeah, you're creating a virtual avatar of yourself of what you want people to see you as,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you want to be perceived as,
And
which is crazy.
that starts to come out in people. It starts to rot out in people. So I don't think we have to be such crazy lie detectors. I think what we should do is just allow people to show us a little bit more, you know, and just let people talk a little less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like shut up and carry this rock to the top of the mountain and let's see if you're full of shit or not.
Yeah.
I was starting to really believe that I was one of those LA boys there for a minute. I was really starting to question my career path.
I think
we both were.
But I think that's good, isn't it? That we're questioning ourselves sometimes.
Yep.
Because if you're never out of your comfort zone, never push, never like questioning, like what is it? What am I about? Then we're not testing ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's good. I like to, you know, and you talk about social media. There was a time back in the day where people would say, you don't really do what you say, because I couldn't record it and post it. So people would say, you say you're doing this, you're not doing this. No, nobody does all this. And so now it's so easy to say, oh, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then still people are like, can still fake it.
Yeah.
You can you could carry that sandbag for 50 yards.
Then I can hand it to your camera guy.
Say you carried it all the way up.
Yeah.
Act like you're sweating and tired.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. You know what's around that corner.
That's what's hard, because people fake a lot of shit these days. But that's why I
true.
love, and I'll refer back to the first video I saw of you, Stefi, is like in that cage. I guess it's at, where's that?
In Ohio.
Arnold?
Columbus. Yeah,
the
the
animal
Arnold.
cage.
Yeah, the animal cage.
Shit's nuts, eh?
There's no faking that shit.
Talk about savage.
Because those guys would never let anybody fake anything. Because to be in that cage. So how do you get in the cage?
So Animal, which was a supplement company, still is owned by Universal Nutrition. they're pretty kind of hardcore in the lifting space. And I was the first woman that they brought in as a sponsored athlete, which was cool. And it was kind of a historical moment, if you may. And then they put this event up at the Arnold, which is a cage, a literal cage, where it has a schedule and lifters that are going to do a particular feat of strength. And for many, many years, I don't know, the last 10 years, it was always guys. And when I joined them as a sponsored athlete, they invited me over to the cage. And the first time that I was in, I was planning on hitting a pretty big deadlift. So they plan it, they schedule it in, and then people just kind of like start gathering to watch people lift. And I've honestly never experienced the energy like that. It was kind of at the beginning stages of my lifting career, so I didn't even expect so many people to show up. But
what year was this?
This was 2017 or 2018. Yeah, 2017 was the deadlift.
Okay.
And there were just like lines and lines and lines and lines of people gathering around the cage and just like getting on the cage and like screaming at you and rattling the cage.
That's awesome.
And it's like, at that point, it's like do or die, right? Like all of these people are gathering here, and also like you're also trying to prove something, right? I'm trying to prove that I'm the strongest woman in the world. I'm posting all these videos of, oh, look, I can do.
Are you real or not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, can you do it or not? And can you perform under pressure? That's the other thing, right?
That is hard.
It is. But I'm fueled by that. Like, I've always been a performer. If you put me in front of people, in front of a camera, I'm making shit happen, you know? Like, I'm pulling it out of my ass somehow, literally.
Nice.
And so, yeah, man, it was a pretty cool experience just to be able to showcase what I really am about. And especially at that moment, I was coming out of a pretty gnarly back injury. I was in physical therapy school at the time, so just spending a lot of time sitting down and stressed out. And
what was the back? What happened with the back?
Nothing. It was just
like low back.
Look, listen, I was determined. I was a physical therapist, and I became obsessed with the topic of low back pain, so much so that I wrote a book about it.
Oh, okay.
Telling you about how I just like get locked into a topic and then like there's no stopping me. I
literally.
Yeah, it was there was not a kind of an instance or a moment that led me to develop this back injury. It was just kind of over time. They got progressively worse. I was taking like a gram of Advil a day just to be able to function, not even to be able to go lift, and was so stubborn about not missing training, about keep progressing and keep getting stronger, because I don't know, that's what I was focused on that time. And just an injury that got worse over time. And then what's interesting about this particular back injury is that you asked me like what was wrong with it. Nothing was really wrong with it. And we can talk about back pain and the misconceptions about back pain if you want, but
how about your back pain today?
Huh? Yeah, I got a gnarly back pump today.
I think we got another back injury.
Yeah. No, but in most cases that you develop chronic pain, it's not usually an instance that did it or like damage a particular body part or tissue. It's more so related to your sensitivity to pain that is perpetuated by your environment, your beliefs, and the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. So I pretty much gave myself that injury just because of how much I was putting on my plate. And leading into the cage, obviously that was a whole new set of expectations, working with a company that for the first time is sponsoring a female athlete, that is opening the doors to a massive event in the fitness community to the first female athlete. So I was training for this for a whole year. And my back was all messed up and I didn't know how I was going to be able to perform. So I'm bringing this up because that's what made it so much more special, that I was able to hit a personal best by like 35 pounds at the cage because I'm in front of people and I was so determined to like prove it, right? That I belonged there as a woman and just in that industry.
What was that first lift?
So I think at that time my best deadlift was 515. And so I hit 520 for a 5-pound PR and it felt so good. And I went up to 535 and hit it. And then I went up to 550.
Everybody going crazy?
Yeah, everybody was going wild. Yeah, so it was technically 3 PRs. It was 120 at that time.
120 pounds.
Wow.
She's lifted more than most men.
Yeah.
Like real men.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that was kind of funny, your story that you said about the average guy should be able to deadlift 600.
This girl, this is so everyone else that's watching this. I ask her because I'm trying to, you're a man.
Yeah.
You're dating a woman, and you're like, how much of a man am I to her? You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, Stefi, if a man's gonna deadlift, average man in your eyes, how much can he deadlift? She's like, you ever see Beetlejuice? You know Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
600 pounds. I'm like 600. She's like, yeah, 600 pounds. Like average guy, just average guy.
That's
like,
barely more than her. What she lifts. So that would make sense.
She's like, it's got to just do a little bit more than me. I'm like, wait, let's have some context here. So like, please let me understand this average man to you. So what does this average man do? Oh, like serious with his diet, like goes to the gym regularly. I'm like, what's regular? Like 4 or 5 times a day or a week, or what's the deal here? She's like 4 or 5 times a week. I'm like, all right. So like I show her some pictures. She's like these guys? She's like, yeah, 600. I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's the fucking new goal. So how many days do I got to get there? So I said, okay, so I'll give me 30 days and I'll get to 600 pounds. Because I got to try to do this shit.
Is that time started right now?
It started like 5 days ago or 6 days ago.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think yesterday is going to set you back a few days.
I don't know. I think I feel strong today. I'm ready to pull some weight.
No, listen.
I think I'm at like 220 right now.
This is what that back injury she's talking about.
This is how it's developed.
Yeah. But
this is where it starts.
I did an Instagram post. I said to everybody, okay, I got 30 days. Can I do it? And like 90% of the comments were, yes, we believe you can do it, but you're definitely going to be hurt. Like you're going to get hurt.
Well,
like,
the people saying yes have never deadlifted anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
So they're just like, oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
But to the people who actually have pulled that weight, they know how real that is.
It's so true. And there's like a science behind building that type of weight. Like you can't just be a farmer, like a friggin' pipeliner like me and just go and just like throw the plates on. You're going to snap.
Listen, like the important point to note here is it's crazy how your environment shapes your beliefs, right?
Yeah.
My environment is based, like the last 10 years, I've been surrounded by massive girls and guys who can lift insane amounts of weight. So that became my reality.
Yeah. So like to the men that are listening to this, don't be discouraged because she's in this topic. She says no bullshit fitness content, but that's a little bit of bullshit.
No,
so
listen.
Average man does not out of my research.
I took it back.
From my research, the average man is 405. A jacked dude can pull 405. Jacked man, but more average is like 315.
And then
that's based on my.
And then a girl.
I think it was like 225 was the average.
225.
Yeah.
I think I
would
would
agree.
agree.
Do you think that's more accurate?
I don't know hardly any women who can do 225.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's just because of the world
by
you're
the
in.
way, according to her, average woman can pull 315 to 405.
Yeah.
Like what?
It is different. It's like you do, where whoever you hang around, whatever you're doing, it does shape everything.
Yeah.
And that's good because I always used to say, I'd take my kids, we'd go to the movies and I'd be like, whether this was good or bad, but we'd be sitting in line in the movies. I'd say, look around, guys. And they'll look around. I said, this is average. We don't want to be fucking average. Because if you look at average, I'm not talking average to weightlifters or to guys who train, but the average in the United States,
you don't want to be anywhere close to that.
it's not much.
No.
It's barely fucking moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like we want to, that's why we hang around outliers or winners or elites in their field, because it's going to help us raise the bar.
Exactly.
Right.
Like shooting, like shooting yesterday. I was never trained formally how to shoot other than my redneck buddies giving me a couple tips once in a while. You know what I mean?
That's most people though.
So to be there at the shop and
Bow rack.
The bow rack.
Yeah.
It's a sick spot. I've heard it's pretty nostalgic.
Learning from the herd. Wayne's the herd bull.
Yeah. No shit.
Do you know what a herd bull
Wayne's
is?
such
No.
a good dude.
The goal is to kill the herd bull. That's the bull that runs the cows, the calves. It's like he owns the mountains. So I'd always say Wayne is the herd bull because he's like the OG, been around forever, done it all, set up thousands and thousands of archers. So I always say this is the herd bull, and he hates it. He hates it.
It's legit though, and he's a
earned
stud.
it.
He's such a good dude.
Yeah.
But that was you put me on that Ventum 34, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the VTM 34.
VTM.
Yeah, last year was a Ventum.
Oh wait, so they changed the name.
The difference is they shorten the word.
So is
the reference.
But is it still Ventum in their eyes? No, in your eyes?
They tweaked it a little bit. What I always say is like, are these bows any better? And like, if it's 1% better, it's better.
Yeah.
Because that 1% could be the difference between success and failure.
Yeah.
You know how it is. It's like when you're trying to achieve new of whatever, like small incremental advantages make a difference.
Massive.
And so to me, the bow is a little bit better than the Ventum. How much is it? If you had an old bow and you had to spend $2,000 for is it that much better?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
It's how much do you care?
Yeah.
I care. I care about every percent.
That gets in your head, then yeah. And once it gets in your head, you know, a lot of guys, like some guys get every new piece of gear that exists. It's like, if that makes them better, then sure.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, so it's like, I think it's key. This discussion is good because it's key. It's like, you got to look, who are you hanging around? You know, what's the expectations of these people that you hang around? Are the expectations to be your best? Well, then that's when you go to the bow rack, you hang around Wayne, he has a certain standard. It might be different than the guys in your backyard of whoever's teaching.
Yeah.
Or if you go lift, it's like, what's the goal? Is the goal, most guys go to the gym, they just want to kind of have big arms, right? That's fine. Girls like big arms, it's all good.
Yeah.
But if your goal is different, you know, when you're like wanting to set a world record or to be like the strongest powerlifting woman of all time, it's going to be a different set of goals and expectations, and it's going to take something different to get there. And that's life. So who are you hanging around?
And yeah, and not only that, but what the point that I was trying to make as well about who you surround yourself with and how that shapes your beliefs is like, well, the concept of confirmation bias and echo chambers, right? Who you are around and what they're saying is going to shape what you think of the world and of particular industries. We got
100%.
briefly.
I so agree with what you're saying.
We briefly got into it yesterday with hunting, right? Like I've been in an echo chamber with people who have confirmed my bias that hunting is evil, right? And it wasn't
Trophy hunting specifically.
Well, but that's all I know about hunting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was anything more to it, right? Until I started doing my research. And
would you even think about, like, sorry to cut you off, but like trophy hunting, did you even think that about like meat eaters? Like
well, hold on, I didn't even know what the concept of trophy hunting was.
So it's just hunting in general,
just
right?
Hunting,
so like the average person, like this is fresh to you too.
Yeah.
So like just a few months ago, like hunting was bad.
Listen, so I met Tristan on Instagram and I asked him to go visit him in Utah because I thought he was a cool guy and he had a gym and he had boxing bags. For all I know, he could be a serial killer. Anyway, so I went to
Still might be.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure.
I am.
So
people trust me with their children. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard to believe.
I know.
You barely take care of yourself.
They become savages.
Anyway,
we kill them off and then they come back savages. And then they go home
that.
and piss their parents off.
I believe that. So I went to his house and he has a bunch of these guys hanging. And I've never seen that before. Like, this is not my world. Like, it's like, imagine you walking to...
Well, you came to the ranch, so that wasn't my house, but that was...
that's where you do your outdoor activities.
Yeah, the retreat center. So that one's built out specifically for like...
Yeah, so there's
like the adventures, but
there's heads from hunts, taxidermied heads, hanging on the wall.
Which I've never seen. So imagine you walk into my gym and you see the average girl deadlifting 4 or 5. Like it's nothing. And that happens at my gym all the time. All the girls are lifting above 400.
Yeah.
All the guys are lifting above 600. And that's the norm in my world.
Right.
That this is the norm in yours. But it isn't in mine. I've never been exposed to this stuff.
Yeah.
So I walk into the retreat center, the ranch, and I'm like, what the actual fuck? Like this guy is insane.
By the way, I've never heard this before. I didn't hear this perspective.
So your original thoughts were like, wow,
this guy's
what
insane.
am I doing?
No, I thought this guy's insane. I'm like, he has like a fetish for killing things.
Yeah.
He's
And we're
gonna
in
kill
the
me
middle
next.
of nowhere.
Is like my head gonna go next on that wall?
That's what, there's even just recently media has put out that like hunters are more inclined to maybe be like these what is like, I don't know, these terrible crimes, and they would say they're more inclined to be this type of fit this profile of this murderer or this child abuser. It's like, what?
Of course,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Because you see movies like Jeffrey Dahmer. What was that movie?
Yeah.
Was it Jeffrey?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
The Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right.
Where the guy the first kill is animals when
Right.
when he's a baby, and then or when he's a young kid, and then he goes on to develop a full blown mental disorder. But
Right.
that's not the norm.
You said it yesterday when we were in the truck. It's like that's the narrative they put out
Yeah.
to make us look bad. They'll
That's
say
right.
whatever they want. Yeah, let's all be real. That you can find facts for to spit any angle you want in
Yeah.
the world. There's enough on the internet that you can bullshit your way.
But at, like Hollywood puts, when they show a hunter, it's never some badass hunter. It's some freaking redneck who's drunk, who's doing stupid shit, who's abusing women. And it's like, so people who don't know, they associate, oh, that's a hunter. That's the behavior of hunters.
Yeah.
That's a poorly behaved human. That's what that is.
Exactly,
You know?
yeah.
Like, this is not a hunter.
But it just fits that, like, oh, we need this character in this movie to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Let's make him a hunter too.
Yep. Exactly.
So you were like, okay, you can find for any one fact, you can find a counterfact, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But that's what an echo chamber is.
Yep.
So if you're trying to find a fact, you're going to try to find a fact that validates your thoughts.
Yep.
And but this is why it's important for people to understand echo chambers and confirmation bias and unbiased research of their own. Because it's like, if you're trying to not even change your mind, but if you're trying to develop a deeper understanding about anything, you have to look at both sides. You can't just keep looking at in the same direction and like continue confirming what you already know to feel better about your beliefs.
Yeah.
You have to constantly be challenging your beliefs and trying to see the other side. There's a YouTube series called Jubilee. Have you ever seen it? So they just discuss, there's a bug. I think those are stinkers.
Yeah, that beetle was up in this light a little while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I watched him go into your coffee cup and out the coffee cup.
did it?
I was going to mention it, but you were talking, and
It's
if
all
you look at the
good.
video, I'm like this the whole time.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll never taste it.
What was I saying?
You're like echo chambers and confirmation bias and to develop. Jubilee.
Yeah. So what
Sorry.
no, it's all good. So Jubilee, what they do is they present highly controversial topics, and they bring in people that are hardcore one side or the other, and then they ask them questions, and then they have to express their views and debate them amongst each other.
Yeah.
And
It's good exercise.
It is. I watch a lot of those videos because it reminds me that there's always another side. Because immediately when I click a video that I'm interested in, I'm like, I side with one group, and I check myself. I'm like, all right, like I'm not gonna side with any group. I want to listen to both of them with the same openness.
Yeah.
And that's important.
More people could learn from that. There's too many people that get so damn heated on their way, and they're not even willing, especially politically.
Yeah.
Just nobody opens their damn minds anymore.
It's hard because it's like there is that subconscious that where you grow up, what you've heard your whole life, it is really hard to like, okay, I need to be unbiased on this. It's so hard because you've been for me 50 years heard this one kind of narrative or this one slant or this one, it's skewed a little bit. Even if I'm saying no, I'm being objective, everything you hear, your thoughts are skewed. I mean, we're humans. We're not machines.
Yep.
So we are going to be. I know AI is coming,
Shit, man.
but we are skewed a little. So it's very difficult to be fully objective. But it's a great exercise. I haven't heard of Jubilee, but I think that's just because if you just say somebody who doesn't know weightlifting, they'd be like, oh. Everybody's like, if you're big, if you're strong, it's definitely steroids.
Yeah.
Facts.
I mean, if you can
Look at all the b-ball you're taking. I know I know that you're on b-ball because
It's D-ball.
is it d-ball?
Yeah, it's with a D.
Is that what it is?
no D-ball, yeah.
D-ball, d-ball,
B-ball.
b-ball. Letting them b-balls in them arms.
Yeah. See? Yeah. So that would tell me you haven't been around the world in the fitness world as much as other people. But yeah, I mean, so people can write off whatever.
Yeah, right off
If
my
they just
fitness knowledge with
Yeah.
my b-ball comments.
If they just don't want to deal with that, even entertain that thought, they can just like, oh, I'm just going to write this guy off or this girl off, and I don't have to even think about it. But yeah, I mean, it's not a way to grow.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a way to grow.
Yeah.
So you were talking about your back injury, and it was kind of interesting. You're talking about your, I think, pain and how it's perceived. Because I know, like, when I get up, somebody asks me, how you feeling? You don't know how I'm feeling. I'm never 100%. That's not the point. I'm still going to do the same shit I do every day.
How were you feeling yesterday?
Yeah. So it's like, but if their environment is any little hint of pain, you're done. You shut it down because that's where they've been pacified or they've been nurtured. Like if you hurt at all, stop.
Yeah, we've been totally conditioned to believe that pain is something negative. And that's just because people have a very limited understanding of what pain actually is. And over the last few years, there's been so much conversation around pain science and especially in the physical therapy world and the neuroscience world as well, in helping people understand what pain actually means and what it doesn't, because the goal is never to be 100% pain-free.
I think we all can agree, no one likes a plumber's crack. My suggestion, Groove Life belts and longer shirts. But not only does Groove Life have belts, they have silicone rings, watch bands, and wallets for everyday use. I've been using their belts for over a year now, and I can tell you they're easy to adjust and my crack is covered. Go to groovelife.com/CAM and use code CAM for 20% off your order. Hey guys, you want to be as smart as famed neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, PhD at Stanford? Well, sadly, that's probably not going to happen. But I did find something that can help, and that's HVMN Ketone IQ. I actually downed one right before reading this, so if I sound decent, it's probably why. Because I'm not sure if you guys realize how much brain power podcasting takes, but whatever I can take that will at least make me sound smarter, I'm in. Ketone IQ is a clean energy boost without sugar or caffeine. Ketone IQ increases your blood ketones. I'm not on a keto diet, but by taking Ketone IQ, I can achieve the desired focus and energy for explosive workouts that ketones typically provide to those in ketosis. You can find Ketone IQ at your local Sprouts or online at hvmn.com. Use code CAM, CAM, for 20% off your first order.
You know, pain is a tool for your body to just give you a little nudge. Hey, you know, we have these things here. Just be aware of them. And
to me, I like when I hurt. I don't know why. I feel like if I had a hard day training and the next day I'm hurt, I'm like, fucking did something.
Yeah.
I like it. So it can be like a negative to some people, or some people can go to it.
Of course, it's all a matter of perception, right? It's all a matter of how you look at things. You can perceive pain as something positive and literally not be affected by it. Or you can have the smallest nag, and because of the way you were brought up, because of all of this kind of fear mongering and avoidance of pain that the medical community and maybe even our parents, some parents, right, that they are so overly cautious with their kids. Then you start developing this mindset of like, I'm in a crystal ball, and every single little bit of pain that I perceive is a sign that there's something wrong with me. And I do blame the medical community in large for that, because we're constantly playing kind of Sherlock Holmes of injuries, where at the very slight hint of pain, we're trying to put people under MRIs, under x-rays to try to figure out exactly where the pain is coming from, when that is completely irrelevant. Like, your comment about your perception of pain is a testament to that. It's all about your perception of it. And it doesn't necessarily, we've proven via comparing manual tests with diagnostic tests that pain is simply a perception, and does not directly correlate with the degree of structural damage that you might have under your skin. It just simply does not. And back injuries, this is kind of my area of expertise just because of how obsessed I became with the topic, but we've proven it via looking at hundreds of thousands of MRIs from both healthy and unhealthy people in terms of their pain, and been able to prove that even that a super high percentage, like over 90% of people that have MRIs that have some sort of finding in them, they're not experiencing any sort of pain. So there's all these people that have disc bulge, disc herniations, degenerative disc disease, all of these kind of negative words that are thrown at us consistently by our healthcare practitioners, that these people are not experiencing pain. So it's about time that we change that narrative about pain and that we start developing a deeper understanding about it. Like the best way that I can think about explaining pain is pain as a smoke alarm. I don't know if you've heard that analogy before. But basically, say that you're in your kitchen, you're cooking some bacon, right? And your bacon starts smoking and your smoke alarm goes off. Does that actually mean that there's a fire and that you have to evacuate? Like, I've never seen anybody be cooking bacon and the alarm goes off and then they tell their entire house that there's danger, right? Like, you're like, oh shit.
For you.
You know, you see that there's you can see that there's smoke coming out of the bacon. You see that it's going to the smoke alarm, and you rationalize what's happening, and you just air the thing out, turn the fire down, and it's gone, right? Your brain does a similar thing. Sometimes our brain is highly sensitive to the input that it's receiving from the environment or the input that it's receiving from internally, from our organs or from our different structures. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there is an imminent danger outside or inside of your body. It's just your brain, for some reason, is uncalibrated to those signals. And that usually happens because the way that we experience pain is a combination of our environment, our beliefs, and then the state of our nervous system, which is highly dependent on how much stress we're experiencing. And so when it comes to the smoke alarm, it's not the smoke alarm. The smoke detector turns on the smoke alarm, but it's not telling you how much danger you're in or if you're actually in danger or what you have to do about it. It's just giving you kind of a signal. And if your smoke alarm is consistently going off, like, what are you going to do? You're either going to shut it down or you're going to adjust it so that the sensitivity of the alarm isn't that much. When it comes to our bodies, obviously we don't have a control switch. I wish we did have a control switch of a control switch of bringing up and down that sensitivity easily. But we do that through exercise and graded exposure and progressive overload. That's how we dampen and control and regulate our pain signals and pain sensitivities. So this is a process called habituation. So by progressively exposing ourselves to the initial painful stimulus over time and in a graded manner, we can essentially teach our brains to be less sensitive to these signals.
Right.
So when it came to my back pain, I was so against getting an MRI and seeing what's under, mainly because I didn't want to confront the reality of what I had going on, because I was so locked into my goal of lifting a certain amount of weight. I didn't want anybody stopping me. I didn't want any sort of like negativity in my head that is telling me that I can't do something. Because listen, at that time, I was doing shit that was impossible, right? Like, there was no girl that had lifted
Science would say you can't do that. Your structure can't hold up. Your bones, your muscles, your tendons, it won't hold up.
Exactly. And I continuously prove them wrong. And so I had a point to prove, and I was already getting enough negativity from the world about the things that I could do and couldn't as a woman in lifting sports. And so I didn't want to look underneath my skin and see that there's another kind of barrier there that now I'm going to have
negative energy.
I don't need it.
And it's like, no matter if you want to ignore it or not, that negative energy can build.
Oh my God. 100%. And it's even the words that certain people use. Like, I remember I went into a doctor's office once. There was a spine specialist, and on his table he had a model of a spine that if you squish it, like the whole disc fell on the back. And I saw it and I'm like, oh my God, is that what's happening to my back when I'm lifting? And I swear to God, and it immediately intensified my pain. Like, when I went into deadlift that day, I was almost like crippled, because all I could envision was my disc bulging out of that spine the way that model was doing it.
Right.
Can I add to that? So when we're training, obviously, for this deadlift, so she's training me. She's going to try to get me as close as possible. But we were doing like hamstring curls. Yeah. And like I've had so many knee issues, which is why I'm like, I love listening to her talk about this type of stuff, because I have a lot of chronic pain from my MCL tears and MPFL ligament tears and all sorts of dislocations and crazy shit. But I'm just doing some simple curls with light weight, and just an immense amount of pain's coming to my left knee, and I'm like, fuck, like, can I do this? Am I going to be able to do this? Like, I can't even train this exercise. And I tell her, I'm like, babe, like, my knee hurts like a lot. And as that pain is coming in, I'm visualizing like what could possibly be happening in there. Is that this tendon? Is that one separating? Is that kneecap chipped? Is there a piece of cartilage wiggled in there?
Totally overthinking
if I do these reps,
everything.
like, and I start looping, right?
Yeah.
And I think all of us loop a little bit in different scenarios in our lives. Like there's different levels of pain. It's not always just physical. There's mental pain. There's all sorts of shit, emotional pain. But yeah, I'm visualizing, and that's getting in my head. And when you have someone come by that's like, if you can put your trust into someone like a physical therapist that actually knows what the hell they're doing, it's the first thing. They got to know what they're doing. So there's a lot of balance out there. But Stefi honestly really knows what she's doing. And so
you created all these worst case scenarios in your head about your body failing.
Exactly.
And then what did she tell you?
Well, she comes in, she's like, nah, it's just pain. You just got to look through it, blah, blah, blah. Let's like adjust. So, we just adjusted to a really light way. And she just helped me through that exercise until the pain just disappeared. All of a sudden I'm doing triple the weight and the pain's not there anymore. I had almost the exact same situation happened to me when I was, after a year of recovery on my left MCL tear, I fell off a cliff snowboarding and blew my knee out really, really bad. And took a whole year off of adventure shit, crazy shit. Still doing a little bit, but the crazy shit was limited. But when I got back the next year, the following year, which was last year, to snowboard, I strap into my bindings and I go down that first run, and it was excruciating, the amount of pain. And I'm like, all I'm thinking is looping in my head, well, what if I hit this bump and my knee goes like this or this, ba, 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 ba. And I get down to the bottom of the mountain after I was like just holding my knees, and I was angry, man. Like I was like fuck, like I took a full year of like dedicating to physical therapy and dedicating to everything, and I put it all in, and it's still painful. So I was pissed, and I was like, I'm gonna do it again though. I gotta try again and see if I can get a little better. Maybe I'll adjust my feet. But I was like stressed. So I'm like, I'm gonna have a shot of whiskey though, because I gotta enjoy this. So took a shot of whiskey. Took a shot of whiskey, get to the top, and it was like 10% better. Went back down to the bottom. I only had one more shot. Had one more shot of whiskey. Went to the top. Halfway down the run, 50% better. 3/4 of the way run, 100% better. Get to the bottom of the run, hit this jump, 360, stick it, 100% better. No more pain in my knees. It was all that. Nothing changed from the beginning of that day where I could barely freaking strap into my bindings. To 3 runs later,
your brain
where I was
changes
jumping and
all.
360 and spinning on my knee. It was mental.
Yeah, and so that again highlights what the actual focus and goal of physical therapy should be. It's not corrective exercises. It's not a specific exercise in a specific rep scheme. It's how can I improve my patients or my clients or my friends' pain tolerance? What can I do to improve his or hers relationship with pain and his or hers understanding of pain and what is actually happening in their body?
And how do you do that?
Through a lot of conversations, eliminating the talk of fear mongering about pain. Stop to trying to find for a specific diagnosis, because it doesn't matter. Like what's going on doesn't matter. It's not going to change the plan of care. Like my approach to you and to you is going to be the same. What's bugging you? Okay. How can we work around it? How can I highlight all the things that you can do? How can I empower you to continue doing the things that bring meaning to your life? That's the main goal. That's my goal. When I have someone in front of me, what do you love doing?
Right.
What are you limited in doing? And how can I help you work around the things?
That's the Beatle.
Yeah. How can I help you work around your current limitations? And how can I help you focus on the things that you can do, so that you completely forget about, get out of the loop, the negative loop that you're in, the catastrophizing loop that you're in of, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, to, hey, these are all the things that I can do. And I'm improving your relationship with movement, and I'm improving your relationship with pain. So when it came to me, and just circling back, and let me finish the back pain story, I eventually caved after 3 years of dealing with this awful back injury. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go get an MRI, and I'm going to face the reality. That's what I said. I'm going to face the reality of what's happening. And if it is the case that I have some sort of like career ending injury, and the 5 people that I trust with my physical care tell me that it's time to hang it up, then that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I want to have kids, and I want to be able to pick up my kids. I don't want to be crippled. Right. So fuck it. Like, I'll do whatever they say. So I went in and I got an MRI, and I was so disappointed. There was nothing there. There's nothing there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm in so much pain. My entire back has to be broken. I want it to be broken because I want an explanation.
To validate why you feel the way you feel.
Exactly. I need an explanation for why I'm in so much pain. Like, I can't tie my shoes. I can't bend my back at all. I can't.
Once you found out that there was nothing, did the pain go away?
No, it made it worse.
Really?
Oh, shit.
What?
Yeah. I don't know. I was just, at that point, I was starting to lose hope. I was hopeless. I'm like, I've been in pain for 3 years. I've seen at least 20 specialists. I've gone all sorts of different types of like regenerative medicine, PRP, stem cells, prolotherapy, seen acupuncturists, seen then dry needling, chiropractor, all sorts of physical therapy.
You did it all.
Pain science, everything. And like nothing was working. What started working was there's this guy, his name's Greg Lehman. He's incredibly smart. He went to physical therapy school, chiropractic school, and PhD in biomechanics. Like, this guy is just like so committed to a lifelong of learning and really grasping things on a whole nother level. Like, PT school is tough enough. I can't believe that he did PT school, chiropractic school, and got a PhD in biomechanics. Like, this guy's next level. So he kind of acts as I don't even know what he acts as, but he does these virtual sessions. He doesn't even feel the need to put his hands on his clients because he so much believes on pain education and pain science.
He can just, with words. So it's kind of like a therapy. And he helps you. He helped me.
Is it like a spiritual thing?
No, not at all. He just kind of helps you game plan for what kind of steps do you need to be taking every week, like with your training. And so for me, I told him, look, so my background is in Olympic weightlifting. So I trained the Bulgarian system. And this system, mind you, have you ever read The Sports Gene? So in The Sports Gene, it's basically, they're talking about natural selection of athletes and how the countries that have the best athletes, it's not necessarily because of their genetics, but it's because they go through this rigorous process of selection where they start with, say, like they start with 1 million people, and then they put them through like the most arduous training that you could possibly believe. And then they're left with like the 3 people that could withstand it. Right? But the Bulgarian system is just like that. And my coach was a believer that if I can endure that, then I'm going to be one of the best in the world. And so I started training like with that system, and it was, we would lift between 2 and 3 times a day. I was front squatting and back squatting on the same day, every single day, at percentages of above 85%, 90% of your max. So it's like, you're really like, you're flying close to the sun. When you're flying close to the sun, you're going to burn some feathers.
Yeah.
And wait, what was it telling you the story?
You're
Where's
talking
I going with
with the pain and like the
what
better
actually helped you
understanding.
overcome the pain? Like, what was it that helped you overcome the pain? Did you drink some mushroom juice?
No,
or what's
I'm
going
just
on
trying
here?
to understand. I'm just trying to like get back to why I was talking
Joe
about
Rogan inspire
Bulgarian,
this?
about the Bulgarian system.
So you tried everything, and you tried.
Oh yeah,
and
Greg
then
Lehman.
you
Greg Lehman.
overcame
Yeah, I'm
it.
back. Yeah. The natural
Fucking
selection.
stratosphere is here, guys.
That's all good.
The natural selection of
This is
lifting.
like me explaining something to you.
Yeah.
Before we lose it, go.
Yeah. Okay. And so I used to, the point I'm trying to make is that I used to train at such a high volume and such a high frequency of the main lifts. Like, my body was so well conditioned to be able to front squat, back squat, snatch, clean and jerk, and deadlift in the same day at insane percentages. So I was in incredible shape, right? So for me to go from that to barely being able to do 1 deadlift session a week and 1 squat session a week was crippling, and it was awful, right? Because like, when you watch your body deteriorate and when you start losing your capacity to do the things you once were able to in such a rapid period of time, like, this wasn't like, oh, I aged 25 years and I can't do what I used to do.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
This is like from in a 3-year span period, right? That I lost my ability to perform at an incredibly high level.
Yeah.
You know, at a level that most people aren't able to. And so my appointment with Greg Lehman, I was explaining that to him and how many sessions I've had to remove out of my program.
Yeah.
And his approach was the opposite. He's like, all right, I want you squatting and deadlifting every single day at 30%. at 20%, at 30%, at 40%. You have to rebuild your belief system and your ability that these movements aren't bad for you.
It's literally exactly what you did to me with the hamstring. It's literally, she took the weight down and she brought it from what we were doing 40 pounds on hamstring curls is nothing.
Yeah.
She brought it to 10 pounds and her arm was there the whole time helping me through it. And she knew where to give me a little bit of little support and where the pain was, and we'd stop where the pain was. And every time we get to the pain point, we just stop right before it and then go a little bit past and a little bit past until it was gone.
Because look, the thing with chronic pain is that our brains are sticky. Like there's this thing called neuroplasticity.
Right.
And it's very sticky. You know, once imagine like a flow of water going through a mountain, right? It starts carving like a crack, right?
Yeah.
And then the crack becomes wetter, and then that's how you form rivers, right? Our brain is no different. Once it starts defaulting to a particular pattern, then that crack starts getting thicker and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know is it becomes our natural, our norm and our default, right? So how can I trick my brain to get out of that? And we do that by, we associate a movement with pain. You're associating knee flexion with pain. I'm associating spine flexion and a barbell with pain. So how can I improve my relationship with this movement over time to trick my body to get outside of that neuroplastic area of, hey, when your spine bends X amount of degrees, that means that something bad's going to happen. Like, how can I teach my body that that's not the way it is? And you can start at the very bottom with like laying down on the floor and bringing your knees to your chest. That's spine flexion, but it's in a completely different context.
So did he ask you what caused pain? And you said, well, these movements. And he said, okay, do those movements.
Yeah, he said, we're going to start doing those exact movements in an environment that is safe. So for me, first was laying down, bringing my knees to my chest. That's spine flexion in a different context and in a different environment that my brain doesn't register as dangerous.
Causing pain, yeah.
So that's how we started. And then we got on my feet. And then it was like, touch your knees 100 times. And then it was touch your ankles.
So what had anything changed? I mean, was nothing healed? There was nothing wrong that needed to be fixed. It was just your brain?
Yeah,
just your
perception.
Brain. So it's the same thing that was with me, right? With my knees.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah,
you would
it's the same thing.
So it's pretty crazy. So would you categorize your thing as chronic pain? Was that
chronic pain?
So what do you think? If you go back to the beginning, what do you think it was? It's just a small tweak, and then you just weren't able to overcome it? Because chronic pain, like I've done a lot of research on physical therapy over the years because of my knee issues and different issues that I've had doing the crazy stupid shit I do. And so I have a huge passion for physical therapy. When we first met, like I actually didn't know she was a powerlifter. I thought she was just a physical therapist. That's what turned me on to her.
You didn't see the 25-time world
straight
record?
Up, I didn't find that out till like literally a week after she was at the ranch.
Oh.
And like a week later,
you need to do better research.
Yeah.
She already caught my attention. I didn't need much more.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for that. You know what I mean? I'm in it for somebody that like literally says, can I come hang out with you? And the next response from her is an itinerary.
Got a plane flight. Yeah.
She got a freaking flight. You know what I mean? Like I was like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
So that's what I was into. But anyway, so like the chronic pain side of things, like what do you think triggered chronic pain in you? Like, because chronic pain usually in my research has been, it's pain that's developed over time and compounded over time. So multiple injuries, not just one, but like one injury, you overcome it. And then the next time you do that same injury, that pain, it's not the threshold, it's the other way. Like it becomes more painful each time. And so for example, with my knee, every time I dislocated my knee, I've dislocated both my knees probably over 25 times each.
Why? Are they loose or?
They were fucking loose, man. They never got better because every single time I dislocate something, I didn't give enough recovery time in between to be able to strengthen it because I didn't understand that yet before I got into the physical therapy. I had I had the mindset of a pipeliner, which is like just suck it up, bite down,
through.
And push through, and nah, I don't need that. Like I'm my grandpa, you know what I mean? Like my grandpa Hamm, he's like, I don't go to the doctor. I don't need that shit. And so that was in my head, you know what I mean? Like I don't need that shit. I don't need no physical therapist. Give me a friggin' rubber band that's gonna. What is a rubber band gonna stop me? I got a pipeline to weld. You know what I mean? So that was my mentality. So I just avoided physical therapy and that kind of shit for a very long time and just dealt with the consequences. And so over time, different things are developing. I'm sure there was some scar tissue, there's some shit, like it's messing with my head. I can't do this movement. I can't do that movement. And I started changing my world around my knees so that I could do what I do, but in an area where it limited the risk of my knees. But every single time I'd blow a knee out, or every single time I'd have a knee tweak or something, it was like it became harder and harder, and I became more and more limited, and the pain got worse and worse over time. So my understanding of chronic pain is that every time you injure it, it gets worse and worse, and then that pain gets just
more intense.
Yeah. Would you say it's similar?
But that's neuroplasticity. That's neuroplasticity. Like the first
that's
time
your brain creating that.
Yeah.
It's your brain creating that default.
So for you, this is why I asked. I gave that backstory. Is like for you, was there multiple injuries, or did you just do one tweak, or did you do multiple tweaks, or you don't know? Like what? Was that? First of all, was that chronic pain? And second of all, how do you think you got there?
No, there was not necessarily a tweak. Like the way I like to think about it is like, think that about this coffee cup, right? You put a certain amount of water in it. If you wanted, or coffee, if you wanted to put more coffee in it, you need to either pour coffee out or you need a bigger coffee cup, right? So pain is the same thing. Like the things that amplify your perception of pain are things like your beliefs, your past experiences, your current stress in your life. And it's not only like the stress of, I'm stressed out because I have to pay my taxes, the stress that you put on your body, like in terms of your training. So all of those things add to the coffee that you're pouring to your cup.
So how does that work with your situation?
I was in physical therapy school. I was sleeping 3 hours a night. I was abusing Adderall and caffeine, like on a level. You know, I was also trying to be the best athlete in the world. I was also trying to be the best daughter in the world, and the best girlfriend, and the best friend. And so it was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure.
Something has to give.
Something had to give. You know, there's always going to be kind of a path of least resistance, and then a weaking of something.
Well, so is it that you just built on that momentum? Like, sorry to cut you off. Is it that you built on that momentum over time? Like you had this. The way my brain works is like, okay, she had this injury. You had this big injury, and I'm trying to like relate to other people too. Like, you had this big injury, and then you had this crazy life. Did that crazy life just not allow that injury to recover, and then that just got into your head, and then neuroplasticity?
It's not even that it gets to your head. It's just like your brain just kind of like turns up this pain signal. Your sensitivity to pain is like the amount of...
And it just never went away. For how long was that?
3 years.
So for 3 years, that switch turned on and just didn't turn off.
Pretty much.
Do you think, how long do you think before that tweak or whatever you think maybe happened actually was recovered? 6 weeks?
Less. Yeah, like
but
physically, because that's the part that we forget, right? Because we're looking at research the wrong way. Again, like where does our belief about spines being fragile, where does it come from? It literally comes from these two studies. This first one where they look at pig spines, cadaveric pig spines, so dead pigs, and they grab a spine and they take it to 10,000 cycles of flexion and extension, and then they're like, see. Spines shouldn't be bending and flexing and extending. Look how bad they are now. All the discs are degenerated. Now they have all these disc bulges. Well, first of all, that's a dead pig spine doesn't have all the enzymes and all the ability to heal tissues, right? Like that's the most important thing. And the second one is that the insult to the tissues, right? Like 10,000 flexion and extension. Like we're not doing that without recovering, right? We're doing maybe 25 deadlifts, and then we're not doing deadlifts for 5 days. We're allowing our body to heal.
Yeah.
Unless you're with Cam.
Unless you're with Cam, and then you're pretty fucked.
Yeah. So I wonder if you said all that you were going through. I wonder if creating an injury solved some of that problem. Like subconsciously you created a back thing so you didn't have to train like that because you couldn't keep all these things up and keep juggling all these balls because you're trying to do all this other stuff. So like an easy out would be like, oh, I'm hurt, I can't. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that it could be like a mentally you create something to give you just that excuse you needed? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, because you said there was no injury, really.
Yeah.
Because they did the MRI and it was healthy.
Yeah. Squeaky clean MRI.
Did you have excuses? Or did you just push through?
No, I just pushed through. Like
Yeah,
I was saying, like I was
crazy.
taking a gram of Advil a day just
Yeah.
to function. 2 grams to be able to
Who
train.
weighs out their friggin' Advil? You
Oh,
know,
I
that
mean,
shit's
I know how
legit.
many pills
Do you
I was
weigh out
taking.
your Advil?
No, but I've
Took
been in.
a couple pills, right?
Extra strong ones are 500 milligrams, so it's half a gram. So I know I was taking like 2 or 4.
You're so analytical. It's
I know.
unreal.
I've been where like I was hurting, but I needed to run. I need to get my miles in, so I'd take 4 Advil before every run.
Yeah.
And you do that 3 times a day because I was running in the morning before work, at lunch, and at night.
Yeah.
So I'd take 12 a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. And then Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she was on Rogan's show, and she said that Advil can be making it worse. You can be,
Wow.
it can make your pain worse. It's not helping. So I was like, well, I'll try Kratom. You know, so I started doing Kratom.
Kratom. I've heard nothing but good things about
Yeah,
Kratom.
so I did Kratom, and it's like I didn't know. It seemed like, well, maybe, but it was just hearing her say that. Mentally, I'm like, I thought it was helping me, and it's actually hurting me. So I just quit Advil, and nothing had changed. My pain never changed. It was those words,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
and it's so like when we were lifting last night, and I've had to like go through this in life where, because we've been so trained to, anything starts to hurt, you stop. That's what people do. And so, like I said last night, we tried to do 100 reps on the bench, and it's like, instead of looking like those last 10, like, oh fuck, these are the last 10, it's gonna be tough. I was like, we're finally to the last 10. We had to do 90 to get here, and this is what I've been looking forward to.
Yeah, I love that mindset.
These
It's
last
not-
10.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's not something to shy away from. It's like, fucking finally,
got
here
it.
we are. We got it. All these are going to be, I'm fatigued. This is going to hurt, but this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to
And
get
so
to.
it's something, it's instead of shying away from it, it's like embracing it.
Yeah, but that's the whole mindset of doing sauna daily and putting yourself in the cold plunge, right? It's exposure to discomfort, because as a society we've become incredibly discomfort averse, right? Like in our comfortable, like perfectly temperature regulated homes and vehicles, and we're never exposed to anything that's uncomfortable.
Right.
We're actually very averse to that. And also this whole mindset of like avoid stress. Right? Like, oh, you have to meditate and do yoga and avoid stress because stress is bad and stress is a silent killer. Fuck no. Like stress, you have to have some level of it, and then you have to level up to the next level and consistently do that over time so you can develop into a more resilient human being.
Yeah, because you hear people say, well, I'm stressed out. And then you say, well, what's a problem? They say, what's stressing them out? Some people hear that and be like, it's fucking nothing. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? What, we're out of milk and you're stressed out, so you got to go to the store? And then there's people, so it's your perception of stress or the pain or your environment. But yeah, when you've changed that and you can tweak it. But I like your analogy about the river, because once you have this pathway of thinking, it's really hard to create a new channel through rock, because that's essentially what you said. So to create a new channel through rock, it's going to be like the low weight or the just going through the movement to build that confidence in your brain to like, okay, we're starting a new channel through here. And then it seems like, it's, you kind of forget where you were because you'd been stuck in this canal for so long. Now you're over here and you're like, fuck, I don't even remember what that was like. This is my new reality.
And you have to build it up as well. Like a really great way to think about injuries and just simplify them, because this is the bread and butter of why injuries happen. Like people love to overcomplicate it, but the reason why an injury happens is when the load that you're applying could be in the form of like stress, or it could be in the form of a weight, or it can be a form of a run. When the load exceeds the current capacity or current tolerance for a tissue, an injury happens.
Right.
And so how can we prevent injuries? Well, or how can we mitigate the amount of injuries that we sustain is through constantly be elevating that bar, constantly be adding more load so that we constantly can increase the capacity of our tissues. And that's how we become stronger, more resilient, and less prone to essentially like disturbances from the environment, both mentally and physically.
Where you grew up, you said Venezuela, right? How did that do you think that environment made you mentally tough, just what you had to overcome? Because, I mean, you're a you got a PhD?
Yeah, a doctorate degree.
Doctorate? But you said you came here, you couldn't speak English or anything.
Yeah.
So how does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like growing up in a third world country and being exposed and seeing the things that I've seen growing up there gives you a completely different perspective of the world. And it does make you much more resilient and much more able to just be okay with shit going wrong around you, and also much more appreciative of all the things that you then do have. So for me, like growing up in a country that was with a government that was so highly oppressive, living under circumstances that were so unnatural, like being 10 years old and not being able to like, I don't know, like walk a block to go play with your neighbor. Like those are things that were taken from me. Like I didn't experience that. I lived in a world of perpetual fear.
What would happen if you how come you didn't go walk to play with your friend?
You can get kidnapped, you can get killed, you can get arm robbed, you can get just abducted, you can get taken to Colombia and just put in these like camps. It's actually insane. Look, when I was growing up, I told you a story. I lived in a building. When I moved to a building when I was 6 years old that was beautiful, had this like beautiful park and just like a little fence that separated the building from the street. 2 years later, that little fence grew into a 10-foot wall. Few years later, that 10-foot wall, they put electric fence on it. Then they put barbed wire above the electric fence. Then they put like military grade, like not even military grade, like Israeli system security, because Israelis are the Mossad is like one of the best special forces in the world. There were legitimate companies from Israel that were flying to Venezuela to like protect citizens. That's how bad it was. So it's like Israeli military grade security systems on top of the electric fence and the barbed wire with security guards patrolling the perimeter and a security guard inside of like an office that was bulletproof. And I watched all of that happen.
They did all that because Stefi Cohen was inside there. And they had to keep her locked in so that she wouldn't fuck with the people outside those gates.
Were they stealing kids? Or were they robbing people? Or what was the...
Everything.
Kidnapping. Any valuable, anything.
Kidnapping, killings for no reason, abductions, taking people's cars, going to people's houses and like taking their jewelry. Anything could happen. And I watched all of that happen. I essentially like watched my already limited freedom get less and less and less and less. And from a stress tolerance standpoint, which is why I'm bringing it up, right? Like I grew up in a highly stressful environment that over time became my norm. I remember the first year I moved to the States, like I still had a lot of friends that I kept in touch with that were living in Venezuela. And on a weekly basis, they would get kidnapped or like somebody would get killed or something would happen. And I was in college, right? And now I'm making all these new friends that are American that are not exposed to that. And I'd be like, look at my phone. I'm like, oh, fuck, like such and such just got kidnapped. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, they just like got kidnapped, but they're fine. It only took $300,000. It's all good, actually. It's a pretty good deal. 300 grand, like it's not bad. Like last week, there was someone that got kidnapped and they were asked $1 million. And it was a problem. It took him a month and a half to get it. This time they were only kidnapped for 2 weeks. It's not even that bad. So
that's a whole different reality.
It's a different reality, and it's also a different perception of stress, right? Like, what do you have to worry about when you walk around in Park City? Do you look over your shoulder to see if someone's going to kidnap you? Or like shoot you in the head, like at all times. Like I used to walk. I mean,
I'm always thinking that, but
you're not in imminent danger. Like realistically speaking, like the chances of you getting kidnapped in Park City, Utah, are
a little more normalized.
It's about zero.
Exactly. So my ability to tolerate stress is much higher than most people's. I would say.
Do you think that since you've been out of that environment, do you think it's changed? I mean, do you think that you've softened from, how long have you lived here?
12 years.
12 years. Yeah, I mean, because we talk about our environment, what we get used to. Do you think is it different for you now?
Yes, and which is why I make a conscious effort to put myself...
Create
create stress
Hard
and create
situations, yeah.
challenges. You know, it's the main reason why I'm boxing right now.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, yeah, I like it, but it's mainly because of the challenge and because of the person that I'm going to become on the other end. And I know the value of that because I've lived that. And I don't want to be too comfortable.
Yeah,
ever.
I understand. I understand. I mean, it's like you see a lot of fighters. You mentioned fighting, and I'm just thinking and I don't know shit about anything, but you see a lot of fighters come up where they have no other options. You know, like they might come from a third world country or from even a shitty neighborhood or tough situations here in the United States. They had to earn everything and they got that edge. And then you see like maybe somebody from an affluent neighborhood who's never had struggle. It's really hard to match that dog. You know what I mean? You can't simulate what you grew up with and that mentality that you created, but that's what made you the strongest woman in the world and this savage boxer. And it's just like, so in one hand, people would say, oh, that's terrible. You had to come up like that. But on the other hand, it's like, God has made you fucking unstoppable.
Dude, I always I hate when I'm telling a story about how I was brought up or like maybe like relationship with my dad or things like that weren't like necessarily positive. And then people say, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm like, dude, no. Like, first of all, it's a blessing. I'm not telling you that to like victimize myself. It's literally what made me me. It's the fact that I went through all of that shit and that life was so hard for me. It's the reason why I am the way I am today. I wouldn't take it any other way. Like, I've been around people who have not experienced any sort of hardship, or the most hardship that they've experienced is that their 90-year-old grandpa died when they were 10. Like, that's literally the most hardship. And those people struggle. Like, there will be a time where life is going to test you. And you're gonna be fucked if you've never endured anything and if you've never been able to overcome anything. So the more challenges I come across and the more challenges I'm able to overcome, the more my confidence grows that as I get older and life becomes more challenging and more convoluted, the more my confidence grows that I'm gonna be able to overcome that. So I'm grateful for all those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because you survived. I mean, there's something to be a survivor.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people didn't survive that situation that you came up in, or they're still stuck in it. But for whatever reason, fate, your hard work, your determination, you're out, but you still are holding on to that. It's why you're great at what you do.
Yeah.
I love that the video from the cage. Was that was the deadlift you said? Was there any other times you were in the cage at that?
Yeah, the following year was a squat. I was supposed to deadlift again, but my back was still fucked. So
it wasn't fucked.
It wasn't actually. I was imagining that it was fucked, but in reality, there's nothing happening with it. No, I was supposed to deadlift, but I couldn't even train the deadlift, so I was gonna go in and squat. And the same thing happened. Like my best squat at that time with sleeves, which is what I was or with reps, which is what I was gonna use, was I think 430 or something like that. And then all of a sudden in training, I start repping 405, just because of a sense of urgency. I'm like, dude, fuck everything. Like, I just need to make this happen. Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm repping 405 for like 10. Next thing you know, I'm like just easily squatting 465, and then at the cage, I squatted 500.
Jeez.
For a massive 40-pound PR again.
Wow.
So it just goes to show, you know, how much stronger you actually are than you think, and how much we get held back by other people's limitations and other people's beliefs of what you can do.
Yeah. No, that's true. There's these brothers here in town, and I just remember them telling they used to do Olympic lifts also, but they squatted. I think one of them squatted every day heavy, something like for 7 years, and just fucking beast. I mean, still the guy, we go to the normal gym here, and like if you do the lat pull machine, every exercise we've lifted together, every exercise pinned at the bottom.
He maxes out.
Just reps. And it's just like...
Every town has their freak, eh?
Total freak. And I mean, total freak. But the difference is, it's like most people, they say, oh, I'm going to train legs, you know, one time a week. Or nobody likes to do legs. Fucking awful, right? It's just awful. But to have that mentality, because you said you were doing those heavy, hard compound lifts every day, is that, your body, I don't know, it's weird because to do that, first you have to be mentally strong, and then your body follows, or is your body strong and then mentally you get there?
Oh, dude, I mean, I don't know. Both things have to grow in parallel, but I pride myself for being a master of the mundane. And anybody who's done Olympic weightlifting at that level, I mean, it's a boring sport, and it's all for very marginal gains. Like, you're essentially trying to add I've gone for 0.1 kilogram PRs. That's how desperate I've been at times.
Yeah,
I'm like,
for an
fuck, like, am I
improvement.
getting better? Like,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for the past year and a half. I
Like,
haven't
what do you
seen it.
put on for 0.1 milligram PR?
Yeah, there's
Whoa.
chips. They're called chips.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like legit. It's like
Spit on the bar.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, I've just, sometimes I've put just like maybe an extra clip, and I know the extra clip is maybe like a half of a fucking gram.
But
Talk
it,
about mental gain. You know
but
what
it
I mean?
gave you that confidence that, okay, I'm
It's
this
moving
work
forward.
is paying off.
Did you ever
Exactly.
have that? Like, so for me, like when I hit my 225 bench the first time, like, I mean, I was more redneck about it. I didn't have a whole like science
System.
and system broken down on how to increase
Yeah,
the weight and shit.
most
but,
people
like,
don't.
But I went from like, I don't know, 165 straight to 225. You know what I mean? But it was just like a mental hurdle. But I had the strength to do the 225. It's just there was the mental block. So I feel like that's kind of the
Yeah,
same
but
thing.
exactly. But you have to. Every time when I was training, I literally told myself, like, I'm making a conscious effort to want to get stronger, because that is the goal. I'm like, I used to ask myself, I'm like, how bad do you actually want it? Like, how bad do you actually want to get stronger? Because adding more weight to the bar than the previous week or the previous month is nerve wracking. Like, you can be crushed by that weight. I've seen many horror stories of like people getting crushed by weight. I'm like, how bad do I actually want it? And I have to make the conscious choice of like going for the next challenging thing. And I'm sure it's the same thing with hunting. Right? Like, there's praise that are less challenging than others, and then there's a mental block that are your skill. Well, maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but are your skills where they need to be for you to go to the next animal or the next challenge or the next like tough environment to hunt in?
Yeah, I mean, like I would say, you could probably agree with this. And the Arizona guys, like coos deer, you got to be able to have a pretty accurate shot to be able to kill a coos deer at shooting 70 yards in a tiny little plate.
Yeah.
So definitely
the
you gotta
difference-
refine your tools for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference, or I don't know if it's a difference, but in hunting, most people fail. So it's like nobody knows, as a hunter, nobody knows how hard you're trying. Only you know.
Yeah.
So if you see an animal, say on the far ridge, and it's miles to get there, you can easily convince yourself, I could never get there before dark. And you let yourself off the hook. And then it's like, well, only 1 in 10 people kill a deer every year. It's 10% success, 90% fail every year. And that's just the way, that's just accepted. So nobody really knows. And if you fail, it's like, well, everybody fail. 90% of the guys fail. And you can say, I couldn't have got there before dark, or I'll get it in the morning. So you can create these situations that let you off the hook.
I totally agree with that.
And nobody knows. Only you know.
It's so true. And out there in the bush, especially if you're alone, or you're gonna live with your buddies, like what happens in the bush kind of stays in the bush, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And you can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, you can make up whatever, and people do all the time
Yeah.
to justify why they didn't do this. But I mean, even lifting, nobody knows if you gave all you got.
Except for you.
Because when you're fighting for that to get up, you can go back down and have your spotter help, and you could say, it's just so close. But if you gave up, they don't know that. You know that.
And that's the thing about individual pursuits, individual sports or individual pursuits like hunting as well, right? Like, who's gonna care if you didn't kill the animal that you were after, if I didn't hit the weight that I had programmed for that day? No one's gonna care. It's not gonna have a consequence on anybody or anything, just on you and in your mindset, essentially. Right? So it's
depending on how much weight you give that. I mean, like,
well, for me, it was incredibly important. Like,
Yeah.
I was doing it for me. I created a purpose that was bigger than me. Like, I was trying to prove something
Yeah.
to society as a whole about what women able to do. And I manufactured that. So that the goal became more salient to me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what determines how driven you are, is how much importance you give to something. And you can trick yourself.
Isn't it interesting, like how you can convince yourself like a level of importance behind something?
Yeah.
Like a hunt, like for example, like you were telling us about your hunt in Africa. And like there's a certain level of importance you put on behind every animal you stalked there. You know what I mean? So it's like you can really convince yourself some shit, you know? And it's like, like every hunt that I've done is like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's our minds are, I don't know. It's just weird because if I even think of that hunt, like normally I'll go on any hunt and there would be nothing that I could tell myself that would be okay for me to not bring an animal home. Yeah. I mean, nothing. But on that one, it's weird because I was going after African lion, and I think like subconsciously I'm thinking if I would have killed a lion. You know, we talked about Cecil the lion. We talked about all the negative connotations with trophy hunting. I think that if I would have killed that lion, I would have had to deal with that for years, forever. Yeah. And that picture. So it's like normally on any hunt, I don't care about anything other than success. There's one measure of success. Did I kill or not? But on that one, for some reason, you asked if I was okay with, and I don't even know how I feel.
Taking out a lion.
Yeah, because it's like no other hunt would I be okay with it. But on that one, I don't know if like my brain is telling me maybe it was for the best. Maybe it was for the best.
You got to lean on that.
I don't know.
I mean, on my ibex hunt, you know, like I had that same thing. You know, I was really disappointed that I didn't tag out. It's like you're going through all these mental calculations as a hunter, like. I think what are the percentage of how many people have killed an ibex with a bow? You know, how many people have gone here to New Mexico and climbed these fucking mountains and got spotted by these things and were able to sneak up on them and, you know, and tag one out? Not very many. What's their like success rate of archery and ibex in New Mexico is very, very, very low.
I've been there. Like just last year, I was on a hunt in Colorado, and I kill a bull on every hunt. Every hunt for years, I've got a bull killed. And so on this one, it was the full moon. It was hot. There's all these reasons why I couldn't get it done. And so I had created in my story, I'm like, okay, what am I going to tell people? I'm going to tell people, yeah, it's just, you know, that's the way it goes. It's bow hunting. It's low, you know, I've overcome all these odds for all these years. And I already had this story manufactured on why it would have been okay, and nobody could question it because of all this. How can you question me? Look at, I've proven myself over and over and over. But in my own head, I'm like, what am I doing? Am I
facts?
Am I convincing myself that success isn't the number one thing? So
I think you are. You know,
and I was just like, but I'm like, well, I have another hunt I got to go to. I got to do this. You know, actually on this one, Joe was like, hey, there's a big UFC fight on Saturday night. And he's like, can you get to Vegas? And I'm like, yeah, if I get my bull killed, I could come and that'd be fun. Fights are so fun. And on that one, and I was just like, what is important to me? Fucking Vegas in a fight? Or this is what I do. This is who I am. And I stayed, and on Saturday night of that fight, I killed a bull. I'm trying to think where that bull is right now. It might be, but I killed a bull right at last light. The hunt was supposed to be 5 days. This was day 7. I stayed 2 extra days, and I killed a bull right at dark. And I remember I texted Joe pictures, raining in Colorado, and he was at the fights, and I'm like, got it done. And it was just like, it was so, nobody cares. Nobody gave a fuck.
Yeah.
I killed another bull.
That's the story of my life.
Whatever. And it's like, but to me, that was huge. And I've been doing this my whole life. But it was that one little thing. It's like, I'm okay with failure, or am I not okay with failure? Am I giving all I got, or am I not? Am I creating this story so other people accept me and be like, oh, it's okay? But like, you know, in your heart, I mean, I think we trick ourselves a lot. But at the end of the day, I knew.
Because
it's so true.
It's all about, for me, like overcoming these challenges. It's all about what, like I said, the kind of person that you're becoming in that process and the kind of person that you're telling yourself that you actually are, right? Like I was having a conversation with another fighter who's a world champion boxer. And he was telling me the story about the first time that he ever got knocked down in a fight. So it was the 9th round out of a 12 round fight against an animal. Like this guy is Connor Bend, was at its peak, still has at its peak, an incredible boxer. And he's going against him, and on the 9th round, he gets knocked down. And he tells me, Steph, like it was like time stopped, and that 8-second count all of a sudden became 5 minutes. I was having a full-blown conversation about myself, about who I am. He's like, all right, Chris, his name's Chris. I can either stay down, you can stay down, and this can all be over. Like he was getting his ass beat. He was having a bad time. He was in the like deep waters with this guy. He's like, I can either stay down here and it's all over in a matter of 7, 6, or I can get up because I know I still have more fight in me. I know that this knockdown wasn't that bad. I know that I still have some fuel in me. I can still throw punches. So who am I? And he says, that was the moment that I realized who I actually was. You know, I'm the type of person that in a situation like that where all odds are against me, I still get up and I keep fighting, because I could never live with myself knowing that I had more in the tank, and I, for some reason, convinced myself that I couldn't do it because it was uncomfortable. And that's the same thing with the hunt. Like you knew that if you just stayed a little bit longer, you knew that you could get the job done, right? And that's who you are. That's the type of person that you are becoming through consistently making those decisions.
I want to add to that.
That's why it's so important.
I want to add something to that. So this is why we came here. That's something that runs in my fucking head and on repeat every single time I hit rock bottom. When I'm ice climbing and I'm on the top of a peak and I'm fucking frozen and I have the barfies, I'm throwing up on the side of the wall. My hands are frozen. I can't feel my feet and I'm up there alone. It's like, this is why I came here, for this moment. 90 reps yesterday with you, that last 10. This is why we're here. We got 10 because we got here. We got 10 more reps to go, and this is where it counts. Same thing with your buddy when he hit the deck. You know, like this is why I'm here.
Yeah,
it's like think of how strong America came because of Rocky. You know, and it's like, you know, when he's on the ground and he gets up. Yeah. But that was the moment that he was there, and that is what Rocky is.
That's how he became Rocky.
That's how he became Rocky.
Yeah.
And like yesterday on the mountain, like I can't tell you how many times I repeated, this is why I'm here. This is why I came here. This is why I came here. Straight up. Because, you know, halfway up that mountain, hearing you guys say, well, you know, no one, like there's 3 guys that have actually been able to make it to the top of this fucking mountain with this rock. So it's not, you could put the rock down, Tristan, it's fine. Like you're chilling. Like if it's too hard or something, it's like, no, this is why I fucking came here. Yeah. You think I can live with myself knowing that I gave up on that shit? Like, well, I want to.
People do all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
And you know, no judgment on them, because this shit's hard as hell. Like it's not a question of like, can you endure through it? Like that is one of the most physically demanding challenges I've ever done. And I don't train that way. So my body isn't trained to do that. So it's such a curveball. So you have to dig fucking deep, and like shit gets black down there, you know? And there's not much down there. When you're dug so deep and you're so far in the dark in this spot where you just want to give up because there's nothing down there for you. Yeah. You have to rely on those things that you hold on to. And for me, this is why I came here. Another big quote that runs in my head is Mike Tyson. Do what you hate to do, but do it like you love it. Yeah. That sticks in my head. That was repeating yesterday. That repeats when I'm on the wall. That repeats when I have to do a branded post on Instagram and I'm not too happy about this fucking company that's been harassing me and annoying the hell out of me the last few weeks on email. You know, it's like, do what you hate to do, but do it like you love it. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I understand. Sometimes I get to that level. It's like, I don't, you know, your ego gets in the way and you don't want to deal with it. But I can't tell you how many times I've been in that dark place, and you have to grab onto something and you can't let go of it. It's easy to let go of it. It's easy to just throw those things away and just those quotes away and just be like, it's just a quote. You know, I can give up. No one's going to judge me.
No, you have to judge yourself.
But I have to convince
no one knows.
myself I genuinely have to convince myself that lie, you know, of I can do this and it will happen and I can get through. What you have written on that rock, you know, I read that 1,000 times on that fucking climb, you know what I mean? No weapon sworn against me shall prosper, right? That's what you got written on there?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
No weapon used against me.
Used against me.
Yeah, used against me shall prosper. And that's a Bible verse you said?
Yeah.
It's legit. I didn't even know that. That's cool. But yeah, it's so true. It's like, you know, this, we all have obstacles in our lives, people that doubt us, challenges that come in front of us and trying to stop us, and they're all weapons to me.
Yeah.
And when I get in that hole, I see that darkness is a weapon used against me to try to stop me. And I know that if I overcome that, though it's absolute hell all the way through, when I get on the other end, it's the most rewarding thing in the world. And like, so, you know, this last hunt that I was on up north, and, you know, I was out there for 30 days, you know what I mean? And in fucking cold, like it's springtime thinking it's going to be warm. It's not warm. It's cold as shit. It's raining, it's snowing. It's like every single element against you is stopping you. And, you know, I put all this, it's so easy to give up there. It's like, I got here. I can live with myself if I think I can convince myself a lie that I can live with myself. I can paint this story of, hey, I was out there. I was at the furthest north you can go. And I did it all, and I posted about it, and everybody knows about it, and I talked it up, and everyone knows how challenging it is, and everybody will understand that I do this every year. But and every year, you know, I can tell people whatever I want to tell them. I can tell them like, I tagged out. I just don't want to tell you. I just don't want to show you because I don't want to scare you because it's bloody or like, you know what I mean? Like I can come up with some bullshit, but I can't live with myself. I can't sleep with myself at night if I do that, because I've convinced myself that I can't sleep at night, and that got in my head deep. And so like, when you're out there and you actually endure through that shit, and you go all the way to the end through all those lies, all that convincing you do to yourself, all the pain, all the struggles, everything, and you're able to tag out. Holy shit, is that the most rewarding thing in the world, man? Holy shit, is it the most rewarding thing in the world to actually summit that mountain, to tag out that animal, to get it home, and the beautiful thing about hunting, and everybody will relate, that's a hunter, is like to be able to pass off that pack of meat to that buddy. Yeah. And for them to be able to channel that energy, you know what I mean? Like her channeling that grizzly before her last fight. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
I love that necklace.
Yeah. Dude, all I ate was grizzly leading into that fight.
That's
and I
awesome.
felt that shit.
That's awesome.
I felt the energy of that bear.
I bet.
Seriously. And like I said, look, I'm a scientist. So I'm he'll tell you I'm very analytical and very square with my thinking. And it's hard for me to like believe things that are not proven, essentially, right? And but I can tell you I felt it, and I feel it in this necklace, and I feel it when I hold on to it, and it brings me like a sense of power and a sense of peace that I've never felt, and I know I'm not imagining it because I was so against wanting to believe any of this shit. Yeah. But you feel it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I channel that shit in my fight.
And you can't get that in a steak.
No.
You can't channel the energy of some factory of how an animal got slaughtered.
Yeah.
You know, I was vegan for 4 years. Did you know that?
No.
And part of it was,
how do you go from Canada to vegan to in the bush of Canada?
Well, so my Adventure Experiences company, we had all sorts of different characters, and very often we were starting to get a lot of vegans as that was starting to become a fad, right? And it definitely was a fad. There's no question about that. There was a proportion of veganism that was a fad.
Yeah, there's a documentary.
Yeah, and
yeah, game changer.
Yeah, fuck that.
But I was, you know, when I was first getting into running retreats and this was my business, and when we were like calculating the cost and rationing food for these trips and shit, we were putting all these budgets together and how are we going to feed everybody on these trips, and I always wanted to make it extravagant. It's like one day my one of the guys, my team, he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, Tristan, like, so like, what are our vegan options on this trip? When we were really starting to get some momentum, we were building these trips out to be more inclusive for people. I'm like, vegan option? What are you talking about? Like, like what? Like I'm a pipeliner. Like it's not an option on the menu when you're up north. They don't have vegan options. And it's just, I was like, I just was so in denial. I used to be like as a kid, so in denial of that shit. And so I was like, nah, it's bullshit. They can eat meat. they don't get that luxury. That's the mentality I used to have. But, you know, I allowed it through meeting those people and learning their ways and understanding them and having an open mind. Like I wanted to experience it. I started to hear and actually open my mind to like the meat industry and in the dairy industry and understand the reasons behind why these people on these some of these people I was meeting on these retreats were vegan, and a lot of people in the rock climbing space are vegan, and I wanted to understand it more. And there's no better way to understand it than to throw yourself in with the wolves, you know what I mean, and feel for yourself like what it's like. So I gave myself a 30-day challenge. I'm gonna give 30 days. I'm gonna try it and see what it's like, and that way I can understand it a little bit more. 30 days turned into 60 days, 90 days, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It became a mental challenge for me. It went from just, you know, trying something new, understanding the reasonings, to somebody had showed me some crazy videos of, I think, Fair Oaks Farms. Have you heard of that?
No.
Oh my God, man.
But I know there's some atrocities in these farms. Yeah.
I'll show you that shit. Fair Oaks Farms, man.
There's some good ranchers too, that where it's like ethical.
Yeah.
But there's also,
I don't want to dig on the back. I don't want to dig on farming at all.
Hey, anytime money's involved,
yeah,
it's going to be fucking ugly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it is ugly.
Just, yeah. And I make myself really, really clear. Like I've a lot of family that are farmers. I grew up custom harvesting, like as a super young kid. And, so like mad respect for farmers, mad respect for that industry, 100%. But this opened my mind to their world of the vegan's mind for that reason, you know, that people that are anti, right? So I wanted to experience it a little bit, and I saw some shit. The shit I saw I did not like. And I still try to limit dairy because of some of those reasons. Some of the shit I saw was just so traumatizing that I can't drink milk anymore. You know, like you can add some stuff and I'll drink it, but it's just not a conscious choice after seeing some of the stuff. But anyway, fast forward, you know, it became a thing for me of respecting life, and I want to tap into this a little bit and talk about it a little bit because of. It's really a big reason why I'm a hunter. And so, you know, I started respecting life a lot more. And I was pretty rough. I was a pipeliner. Like I grew up with guys that were convicts, and like, you know, I was 16 years old working on the pipeline. You know what I mean? I was out of school early, and I'm working on the summers. Like, and so these guys raised me, you know, and they raised me tough, and they raised me with very few, like very limited vocabulary, you know, it's fucking shit. Yeah. That's it. You know what I mean? And there's very closed minds, and this is the way the world is. And that's how I grew up. And, so tapping into the vegan side of me, like it made me respect life a lot more. So, I used it as a challenge for myself to become a better person and use that as a way to evolve personally. So anytime I saw meat, you know, I was getting into bodybuilding at the time too. So like meat, I was eating 6-7 times a day, right? And I'm eating meat every single meal. And so to cut that out was every 2 hours, every hour, I'm consciously reminding myself I'm not eating meat because I want to respect life more, I want to be a better person. You know, was my mentality. Yeah. And the growth I had through that was so amazing, just by having that constant reminder of being a better person, opening my mind, you know, blah, blah, blah. Really helped me. And so that's why I sticked with it for 4 years. But there just became a point where my body just started to take a toll from it. And it's like, no, like how can I now respect meat in the animal in a whole nother light? Yeah. And you know, through that whole process, by the way, that I was vegan, every year I'm with my family harvesting meat, helping my brother get his meat, fill the freezers for the family. I'm not eating it. I called myself the vegan hunter to my buddies that knew that was going on. Yeah. Because I was still down to like pack meat out and help with that process, because there was nothing better than that process to harvest your own animal and to share with your family and to nose to tail using every ounce of that animal. Like that's how I believe in. That's my ethics behind hunting. But you know, coming out of veganism was like, okay, now coming out of it, my first animal that I'm going to eat is going to be something that we hunted, you know, so I hunted my first, that animal was hunted, and ate that shit and felt that shit and felt good, you know, and it's a total different process. To harvest your own animal and everybody will relate. It's a bow hunting podcast. So that's my ethics behind hunting, and vegan. I did it, been there, done that. It's cool. But yeah. Anyways.
And this is the part of hunting that is so important to get out to the world. And it's hard being an outlier, you know that, and you know how much you're met with resistance from the world, right? Because of their preconceived notions and beliefs about a subject, in this case hunting, and the light in which hunters have been painted in mainstream media, right? So you guys are at the front line now to change that narrative. You have the power to change that narrative, but it is challenging because now you guys are going to be essentially like taking all that heat from people and all that hate just because of a mismanagement on different media companies on the way that they portray certain people, in this case hunters.
Yeah.
Right. But I was talking to you guys about it yesterday, just how much my perspective on hunting has changed just by being exposed to this world a little bit more, which is why it's so important that you guys continue being positive advocates for it and continue sharing your love and passion for hunting in such a positive light, which is genuine and authentic to what you guys believe. Like I can attest 100% to that, you know, that how much honor and respect you guys have for these animals, and how much of it you're doing because of how it makes you feel and how right it seems in this new light that I'm being presented by. You know, like when I first met Tristan and he had some animal meat that he had harvested and he cooked it for me, I was so averse to eating it. Like I was having a hard time, and I'm like, all right, like I'm pretty rational and objective. I'm like, what am I uncomfortable about? Because I'm still eating a cow or a chicken or a fish that is
hire somebody else to kill your meat for you.
That got killed.
So.
But for some weird reason, like I find it gross to eat the meat from this animal just because Tristan killed it. Like, what's the logic there? There is none, right?
Yeah.
There is none. And objectively, this meat tastes amazing. But I'm having a hard time even like allowing myself to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Why is that? Right?
It's a common thing.
Right.
You know, I've actually, other than vegans, when I've brought up that I'm a bow hunter or that I harvest my own meat, I've never actually, I'm sure this is just me, lack of amount of people, but never had anybody upset about it. They've been adverse to trying it, but they've never been upset at it. They were never like, oh my God, you're a hunter. Like, that's all online type shit. You know what I mean? That's the people online talking shit. But like actually face to face, when people find out I'm a hunter, they're like, they look up to that. They're like, wow, what's it like? What's the experience like?
Well,
that's amazing.
It's also, you know, they're looking at a person.
Yeah.
And it's not just like this arbitrary thing online or this bad whatever. They're looking at you as a human.
Yep.
And they're like, this guy looks pretty normal. Seems pretty nice.
Yeah.
And he hunts. So it's all gauged on that or judged on that instead of this persona.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not so much the case with politics, though. You say who you're supporting, and now
I
all of a
mean,
sudden your entire perspective changes of you, which is kind of bullshit. But
yeah, even so, normally if I'm talking to, say, an ultra runner, which is it's pretty liberal crowd, and I say, oh, yeah, I'm conservative and I bow hunt, but we've been getting in miles together, and they see me out there in the mountains, and it's like you get a pass.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, this guy seems all right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's normally you judge people on your interactions with them. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Online, that gets muddled.
Yep,
You know,
totally.
and people like to group people, say, oh, Republican, or you voted for Trump, or whoever.
Yeah.
You know, you're here, and there's nothing you can do to get out of that category because that's where I'm putting you. But when it's face to face, it's way different.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to help people open their minds a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like I'm open. You know what I mean? Like I'm open to trying shit. Like I can say the shit I can say about hunting because I've been vegan. I can say the shit that I don't have a PhD. I got some pro science behind me.
Yeah.
I got some experience behind me. Not all of it.
Yeah.
I got a lot to learn.
Well, you're more open. I mean, there's no way I would ever try to be a vegan.
Really?
So you're more open-minded than me. Instead, I'll be like, you know, if I'm spending time with somebody or I'm just going to talk about what I do.
Yeah.
And if they want to come do what I do, perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, after 55 years, I'm definitely not changing.
You got a bit stuck in your ways there, my friend.
Exactly.
But you're open-minded enough and self-aware enough to understand your bias and respect and accept that they have a different opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to share it, but you just have to be self-aware enough to be like, all right, like I see your point. I understand why you might be want to be a vegan. I just don't share the same opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot younger. So for me, it's like I'm still in my infancy of trying new things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like, let me try everything, and then that's starting to develop my character much more.
Definitely.
So I mean, I got a lot of experience in my momentum.
Well,
but
Canada, you guys are nicer. You guys are nice.
That's bullshit, man. That is bullshit.
I don't know about that.
You know, it's funny.
You're always like, sorry.
Yeah, we have great manners until you piss us off. And then it's like people pulling over with a hockey stick.
Okay.
Like you're not allowed to fist fight in football. You know what I mean? But that's allowed, and that's actually looked up to in hockey, right?
Oh, I know. I've seen some great fights.
Yeah, it's so funny when people say that Canadians are nice. It is true. Like Canadians are nice. Like we have
very
manners,
polite. Yeah,
very polite. But also, there's a side of Canadians that are like the real Canadians. I mean, the real Canadians, in my opinion, are the oil workers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the people that run that damn country.
Definitely.
Well,
I think the United States gets most its oil from Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, people think it's Middle East, but it's Canada.
It's interesting because I'm in a space that's very liberal, right?
Yeah.
With the adventure community, rock climbing, ice climbing, all that shit. Ice climbing is a little bit more conservative, but rock climbing, especially hiking, nature lovers, tree huggers, yogis, which I'm all of the above.
Yeah.
But I bring a different perspective because I come from the oil industry. I come from the roughnecks, the guys that don't agree with these new agendas, right?
Yeah.
But I have an open mind to it, back in the oil industry, when I found out that Caitlyn Jenner was transitioning, or Bruce Jenner was transitioning, and he became Woman of the Year, I was like, me and all the guys are like, what the fuck is that? Like, what the fuck?
I'm those guys.
Yeah, I know you are. and it's like, men are so good. They even won Woman of the Year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how good we are. That's the mentality we have. And fast forward to today, and Caitlin's a great friend of mine, and we were flying a plane the other day.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, and it's like to see how much I evolved just by like opening my mind is really cool for myself.
Yeah.
But it's like that. It's a different culture up there. You know what I mean? We're just surrounded by like these narratives that we create ourselves up there. And then you open your mind to things like you start to realize there's some pretty good people out there.
Yeah.
Now I have some strong and heavy opinions on a lot of that shit. I'm not going to open it up too much, but yeah, Canada in general, like
a lot of what shit?
Oh, here we go.
No, I mean, you said it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, like the trans agenda and all that. Like, I think they're letting it out a little. Like, as an adult, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, but like let people mature past 25 before you start indoctrinating them into stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
No, I can't get on board with the kid stuff.
All the above, right? Like. You should be a full-on adult before you're pushing agendas on people. I know a lot of people that are in their 30s that haven't matured yet. So
me too.
Why are people pushing 17-year-olds to transition
or younger
or young?
Yeah, it's terrible.
It makes me sick to think about that. But so that's what I mean by having some heavy opinions on some of those
think
categories.
we're on the same page there.
Yeah, but yeah. So in Canada, like the oil workers, like they run that place, right? Like It's the boots on the ground guys. It's total different culture in northern BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Ontario. Like those guys work in the oil fields, work in the oil sands. They care about the environment. They genuinely do. Like these guys, the oil workers in the pipeline industry is looked at as guys that don't give a shit. They're spilling oil everywhere. They're ruining our planet. But those same people that are making those statements, we all know, we've all heard it on a million podcasts, are the same guys flying the private jets, using the oil, right? So we've heard all that shit before. But I feel like me coming from that space is pretty cool because I'm able to educate these people that are in the tree hugging community.
It's a good perspective to have. It's different
because it's the same thing. Like when you're sitting in front of somebody and you find out that they're a good person, but then you also find out they're a bow hunter. Now your perspective is changing on bow hunting. It's the same thing. Like most people, they know that I'm the hiker adventure guy, and then they find out where my background is, and I came from the oil industry.
Yeah,
it's like, oh shit! Like I thought oil workers were bad. I thought that was like a part part that nobody really talked about with Canada. When you think Canada, you think beautiful, vibrant British Columbia, Whistler, skiing, nature, like the best place in the world for beauty. But you don't realize the oil sands. They don't think of the oil rigs. They don't think Texas, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's very much what it's like. So yeah, it just brings, I'm able to bring some perspective to those people. Really cool thing. Like in the oil industry, the men that are running that damn country, they care so much about the environment. It is every safety meeting.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Every morning we have environment and safety meetings at 3 a.m, 4 a.m, 5 a.m, depending on what kind of crew you're running. And we have processes and systems behind everything. I am talking the average person going to the store spills more damn oil than the men out there, you know? But then you hear of these big things that are like, you know, you hear of a big oil spill that happens in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, why did that happen? That happened because that line was supposed to be replaced 5 years ago, but because of the political agenda that's going on, it's not being replaced because pipelines are bad. So we're going to stick to the traditional tanker method and the train method, which we have spilling shitloads more oil. When that line could have just been replaced by a simple pipeline project. You know what I mean?
It's like, education for sure.
I worked on a project in Canada called the Line 3 Replacement Project, and we'd had a big, like over 300 mile section of that. It was pretty big, a 36-inch line and then a 48-inch line.
Is it above ground?
No, it all gets buried.
Okay.
20 feet deep.
Okay.
You know, depending on where it's at, what kind of materials down there, like if it's rock or something like that. If it's crossing a river, sometimes go under the river, over the river. But yeah, like when that line 3 was getting, you know, put together, like, I mean, we waited years to let that line go through. Like, I mean, from when I heard of it to when we started working on it,
is that poly pipe or what kind of pipe is that?
Steel.
Steel. Okay. And so they auger, they directional drill steel and pull it, or how do they? How
do they pull it under the river? Is what you're asking? So there's a drill crew that'll basically drill on completely under the river. It's all engineered how they do it, where they go through, what type of rock and everything, and then it's very engineered on computers, and they come in with some old ass machines and just drill a hole all the way under the river and then out the other end, and then what you have at the ends are called tie-ins. So basically you'll drill in, and then the line's already built above ground. So the sections of pipe are brought in, they're welded together, and you have these sections, and then it's you got these caps on both ends with like a giant, like thick, like.
So you drill the casing in and pull the pipe back through the casing.
So then that drill comes through, and then it pulls it back underneath like that, just like a piece of spaghetti. You know.
Or like
tie in. Yeah, exactly. Or like a threading the needle kind of thing. You know. So
cool.
Then, and so it gets pulled completely under the river, and then the other 100-kilometer sections are lowered into the ground, and then you'll have a connection point of 2-3 joints, which we call them joints. They're green pieces of pipe.
And then the connections were welded or okay.
So everything's welded. And so there's 2 different welding processes. There's either automatics or stick welding, and I've worked on both. CRC is the company I work behind with the automatic side of things. So I was a tech for a little bit, rebuilding these robots, which is a good time. But basically, if you're on an automatic crew, the automatics will weld we have an internal welder, which is called the pig, or the goose. The goose lays the golden egg. That's the saying. So the goose is this internal welder that drives through the pipe and welds the inside of the pipe, and then you'll have a number of fill passes, and a cap for the outside of the pipe, of course. So, you know, 100, 200, 300, 400 joint sections that could be upwards of 100 kilometers long of pipeline that's built above ground, and then gets lowered into the trench that's built, and then gets tied in over by the river.
Is it under pressure?
Yeah, they pressurize it. So after it's been welded and all tied together, you'll put what's called a pig in. And so you'll cap both ends, you'll pressurize it. So
run a pig through there.
You'll run a pig first, so then the pig will run through to make sure that if the pig gets stopped, it's basically a big rubber cylinder that gets blasted with the air all the way through the line. If it gets stopped, there's a little radar inside, or a little GPS inside, and you can track it, figure out where it stopped, why it stopped. Maybe when they backfilled, they kinked a pipe or something happened, you know, and they can go in and cut it out. And it's a big process. You got to go in, dig up the pipe, cut it out, fix that. And once it's pigged and everything's running smooth, then they'll cap off the ends and they'll do what's called a hydro test. So basically what you do is you fill the line with a mix of water and methanol so that the line doesn't freeze. And then they pressurize it up to a certain pressure depending on the code. This is all engineered. So this again goes back to vetoing the people that say that pipelines are bad. The level of testing that these pipelines go through is unreal. And then the other side of it is people talk bad about pipelines, saying that they're bad because we're coming through and creating a right of way through the forest. But the amount of process we have in place to make sure that we repair the places that we go through, we leave them better than we found them.
Protect the environment.
That is engraved in us. You know, there's only a few things that are engraved in us out there, and that is the main one. Because we want to keep our jobs, you know, that's
there's
the mentality.
High standards if you're doing work out there for sure.
So that's pressurized. And then if basically we wait till it takes about 24 to 48 hours, depending on the line. There's a different process for every. So, and once the line is stabilized on pressure, we know that it hasn't lost any pressure in that time. There's many different methods to do it with different types of machines, but you
passes a pressure test.
Passes the pressure test, and you're good to go. And if there's any line, if there's a leak, then it's a son of a bitch to figure that one out. But prior to that, before you put all this friggin' water in the pipe and you start pressurizing all this stuff, every single weld is X-rayed. You know, you have an X-ray that runs on every bead, and if there is a tiniest imperfection, it's cut out and it's welded and it's tested again, and it'll keep going until it's done. And if you're a welder, you get one strike. You screw up once, you're out. You better hope that weld, like there's a reason behind that weld, because there's documentation behind it. Why was there an imperfection?
Costs a lot of money to go back there.
A shitload of money. One tiny little imperfection, and they got to go back, bring a crew, a welder, his helper. They got to bring a whole team of operators to lift that pipe back up, a whole team of laborers to help cut it out. And if there's a full cutout, sometimes there's like little micro repairs so they can just grind it out.
You guys are earning their money for sure.
But yeah, so there's so much that goes into that, and those guys definitely need a lot more respect in their giving.
And support. I agree. I'm on board with that.
And that's the thing with like those older lines, right? Those old lines didn't have, like from 30 years ago. Well, they did, but like those lines that are 100 years old, some of them are still running. They didn't have those types of requirements. They didn't have the technologies we have today. We need to replace those. You know, we're not sucking all the oil out of the ground. You know, we're trying to evolve. We're trying to get to a world where we can rely on renewable energy. But we gotta pay our dues,
it's not
bro.
overnight.
We gotta pay our dues to get there.
I understand.
And people forget that.
I understand.
We're not just magically gonna create AI. We're not magically gonna become, you know, non-dependent on oil and gas. Like we gotta innovate the process, but we need to get there first. It's not all just a money grab, you know.
I understand.
And people are indoctrinating people with this whole. It's like stop Canadian American pipelines and drilling because bad for the environment. But as we go over to the Middle East to go and buy all that oil. Like if we're trying to make a global effort here, then maybe we should focus on.
If we would want to, I would think
there's no regulations out there.
No, and we don't want to be relying on a regime like that. I mean, it'd be better to work in partnership with Canada, you know, our neighboring community or country.
We got so I mentioned CRC. CRC Evans is it's an automatic welding company, right? So they're all over the world. It's a great company, and they operate all over the world. And you know, growing up, my stepdad he did a lot of time in Russia and in the Gulf, and my uncles, like I'm like a third generation pipeliner. So, you know, the regulations and the shit that you hear that goes down there is brutal. Like the shit that they would never pass in Canada, the United States would never pass.
I bet.
But I mean, the CRC guys, I mean, they got to just, you know, their job is to come there and make sure the things weld. They're not allowed to touch that shit. They got to just make sure it's being welded. And thankfully there are places that they're trying to save money. These companies out in these other countries are trying to save money. So they're going with the automatic route because it's faster. It doesn't take as long. They get the job done and start making money faster. But thankfully these machines are so advanced that they're making like perfect welds. I'm talking perfect welds.
That's awesome.
So it's good. There's companies like that are out there that are like kind of having a little bit of a footprint, a little bit of an impact. it'd be better to bring the oil here. It'd be better to be subscribing to the oil here, buying the oil here, running pipelines, replacing these trains, replacing these these tankers and shippers.
Oh yeah, just eliminating risk.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is all your family out of Venezuela?
Like originally?
Yeah, I mean, like your mom is here, right?
Yeah, my mom. Well, yeah, my mom's in the States, and all my siblings. My dad's the only one that's still in Venezuela, but he's originally from Morocco.
Okay.
And then my family from my mom's side is Eastern European.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, like World War II immigrants kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
It's gnarly.
Yeah. So where do they live? Your family?
We're spread everywhere because it's been really hard as a Venezuelan immigrant to get access to freedom, to the States. And so we've all kind of been forced on a different path, which is really sad because a big part of growing up in Venezuela is it's how tight families are.
Yeah.
Like it's a big part of our culture. And so I was used to just living within like a 5 to 10 mile radius from every single member of my family. You know, siblings, grandparents, cousins, nieces and nephews, to now we're spread out around the globe, like not even just around the States. I have family in Europe and Spain. I have family in Canada. I have family in Switzerland. I have family in Israel. I have family in in South America, and we're all just kind of like spread out, which is really sad. And we're all just kind of chasing opportunity, which is it's a much more kind of American way of living, you know, that is not necessarily centered around family. People are just chasing money, chasing careers, and chasing opportunities. And that's just kind of what we've been forced to have to conform to, which is sad. So I have two of my brothers are in Miami. I have a sister in Chicago, and then everybody else is just spread out kind of thing.
Are they all freaks too?
No, they're freaks.
You're the only freak?
They're freaks in their industry. Like my entire family is very kind of career and goal oriented. So they're
hard
all
workers, I'm sure.
They're all outliers in their field, but nobody's an athlete. My dad was an ex-professional soccer player, but that's kind of as much as my family, or I guess like heritage and athletics comes from.
She was a professional soccer player too.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
I told him.
Yeah. I was just curious about your brothers and sisters too, if they, but I mean, being an outlier, there's different categories. You can be physical or, well, I mean, you got both because you're also a doctor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just that
But it's because of the bar. Like the bar was set so high in my household. I told you I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. My oldest brother is 51. So they set the bar pretty high. Like by the time that I gained consciousness and awareness of life, they were all doing big things.
I think your mom set the bar a little high too with your whole career, with the physical therapy side of things. She likes to take some credit for that, doesn't she?
And she did. But my mom also, like my mom has 2 master's degrees.
Yeah.
My mom went to NYU on a full scholarship, like going from Venezuela as well. Has 2 master's degrees. Has like an incredible career as well. So I just come from a family where the bar was raised incredibly high.
Yeah.
And so I had to prove myself to them.
Yeah.
And then prove myself to me that I was actually who I said I was.
Right. And so now
you just have to walk the walk.
Yeah.
Walk the talk.
Yeah.
So are you, you're fully invested in fighting now? I mean, you still lift, obviously.
But not in a powerlifting sense. Like I lift for fun and just because I genuinely enjoy doing it. But in terms of like my athletic goals right now, I'm 1,000% into boxing. And I have been for the past couple of years. Yeah, it's been such a cool experience.
So the goal is world championship.
Yeah, a world title.
World title.
But more than the world title is like I want to hone in my skills as a boxer to a level that I become really entertaining to watch and inspiring for other women to try to accomplish the same things, right? Like I started boxing when I was 29. That's really old, especially for somebody who doesn't have any sort of martial arts experience to just like randomly get thrown in there and just start training for a fight in Dubai with 8 months of anticipation. It's, again, things that I was consistently told that were impossible, that I could never do, right? I'm too big. I'm too muscular. I'm too stiff. I don't have experience. I will never be skilled enough. Like all of that is kind of fuel for my fire that is inspiring me and motivating me to prove a point and to subsequently inspire other girls to try to do the same thing.
You've come an incredible way though. Like from where she started boxing till now, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Unreal. She has it. Like a lot of people, they can train their entire lives, and they just don't have the it factor. You can see it in Stefi that she has the it factor. When her coach Pedro Neme tells her something, it's executed. You see it come through, and she can execute, and I think that's going to go a long ways. Everybody in her space in the women's boxing, a lot of these women have been boxing for a long time, and they have the experience. She's just getting into it. She's got the strength that they don't have, so she's bringing something. She's coming in and she's ready to pay her dues, and she pays her dues. I've never seen somebody train so hard in my life. I've been surrounded with pros my entire life, and it's incredible what you're doing, and you're very underestimated right now in the boxing space,
and that's fine.
And yeah, that's fine, but the people should watch out, because she is taking this more seriously than she's taken anything, and I can attest for that. I see it every fucking day.
My whole mindset is
you're humble about it, but
my whole mindset is being impossible to ignore, and that only happens through actions, right? Like showing. So I'm okay with like people telling me I can't do something, people doubting, people I don't know, looking down on me for whatever reason. Totally cool with it. I know it's just a matter of time until I have that second to actually prove what I've been working on, and I'm so patient. Again, I'm a master of the mundane.
Yeah.
You know, weightlifting is the most boring sport in the world, and I mastered that. And so I'm taking all of those skills. I'm taking the skills and everything that I've learned from doing 3 different sports at the highest level, and I'm essentially just plug and play to boxing now.
You made weightlifting sexy. You know what I mean? Like you brought weightlifting to a whole nother level for women, and I think you're gonna do the same thing with boxing. I think you're going to take boxing to the next level for women. I mean, I've been working with your management and trying to help manage you for the last few months here. And it's funny, like the amount of people that underestimate women's boxing, and they put it down like, oh, there's no money in women's boxing, this, that. I've heard every excuse in the game. And it's like, we talked about it. It's like, this is going to change. Stefi Cohen is going to change.
Who's the biggest star in women's boxing?
I would say right now in women's boxing, Alicia Baumgartner. She's just a stud. I mean, she has the skill. She's incredibly athletic. She's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. She just has this like charisma about her, and the way that she carries herself with like so much confidence and so much power and strength. I haven't met her in person. I talked to her on Instagram, and I follow her fights really closely.
Where's
She's actually
she from?
fighting today. I'm not sure where she's from. Detroit, maybe.
But U.S.
Yeah, the U.S.
Because I know there's a Katie
Taylor from Ireland.
Connor isn't Connor like a big fan of hers?
I would say skill-wise, she probably is the best female boxer in the world. Between her and Clarissa Shields, like objectively speaking, they are the best boxers in the world. But I'm talking more about influence.
Yeah.
And
star power.
Yeah, star power. And Alicia definitely has it all. She definitely does. But yeah, like when it comes to actually excelling at something, and again, it goes part of like the message that I'm trying to drive home for not only younger women, but just people in general, in terms of like finding their true calling, finding their passion, their purpose and their passion. That's when those two things aligned, then you have a goal that's actually strong enough. But how do you actually get there? You have to go through massive, what I call discovery periods, where it starts with inquisition, an inquisitive mind, and curiosity of like what's actually out there.
Yeah.
And then being willing and able to put yourself out there to try to discover, you know, what your options are and what you're able to do. And then at that point, I always thought of it like kind of like a chart system. Again, me being analytical and incredibly squared in some ways. I have this like imaginary like X and Y axis where there's 3 bars. There's your skills, your passions, and your talent. You're like trying to balance them out, and one doesn't necessarily weigh more than the other. It's a matter of like finding one that brings the most balance. That's where you're truly going to excel at. So your talent is your God-given natural abilities for something. Like there's people who are more naturally fit, both physiologically and psychologically, are better at endurance sports or are better at strength sports, you know, muscle fiber type composition, body proportions, like all of those things play a role in what kind of talents you're going to be able to be good at. Like someone who's 6'3" might be really good at basketball, for example, right? That's an innate ability that they have. Then you have your skills, which are things that through hard work and putting in hours, you'll be able to develop over time. And the main factor there is the speed at which you acquire that skill. That's what's going to determine if you actually have the ability to get to a competitive level, is your rate of progress, the rate of development in that sport or in that endeavor. Skills, talent, and then passion is your inclination to enjoy something. And the thing about passion is that it's so often glorified at the expense of other things. Like this whole mentality of chase your passions, do what you love. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Do what you love? No, do what you're good at and learn to love it.
Yeah.
You know, I've also proven that. I've done shit that
I love hamburgers, so should I just eat hamburgers all day?
You should just become a hamburger. No, but yeah, it's incredible what happens when your skills and your talents, your passion and your purpose all align. Yeah. Then all of a sudden you start enjoying it. Happened to me with powerlifting, happened to me with physical therapy, happened to me with being a social media quote unquote influencer, right? Like when you're weird creatures.
But you love that part of it.
What part?
Like you love finding your passion within it.
Yeah, I
like what you just said directly contradicts my philosophy in life.
Because
you're saying like
you're just a fight.
Yeah, we're going to trap now. We got to start sparring again. Bring the gloves. Let's go. Well, because what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like for me, I found what I love to do, and then I made a career around that. I may not be the most talented in it, but I fucking love it. And my philosophy was I want to wake up every single day doing what I love. Your philosophy of like find what you're good at and fall in love with it is the original philosophy that gave me the opportunity to be able to find what I love and then stick with that one. But I had to learn to fall in love with the pipeline. You know what I mean? That shit sucked. Fucking waist deep mud, quicksand. You asked if I ever got caught in quicksand, silt in the pipeline by those tie-ins by the river. Natural springs pile up, you're sucked in. There's nothing fun about that. But I woke up every single day convincing myself that I was until I started to love that shit. I love the money. But eventually that gave me the wherewithal to get out of that and then find what I love and then fell in love with it. So it's a little different than what you're saying, right? I
think it's different too when you're talking competition against another person.
Totally.
I think that's,
I agree with that.
Yeah, because you can convince yourself you have passion and you love this, whatever. But when you're competing against another person or lifting more than another human ever has, that's going to be different approach.
Yep.
You're going to have that just in love with the mundane, the skill and ability and passion is probably, I mean, that might push you a little bit, but I think it's different.
That's what I love about this table.
Yeah,
because at this table, there's 3 total different types of worlds, right? Like you're a professional athlete, top in your class, best, most strongest woman in the world. Okay. You're a bow hunter, superintendent. I'm just a fucking adventure guy. Figured out how to fucking make some money doing what I love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All I'm
so
saying,
like an entrepreneur.
All I'm saying through that is that pursuing what you love and your passion is a dangerous way to get into things because sometimes you can't monetize it. Sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes you don't even have the skills to be able to know how to monetize that. So have you ever heard of the Japanese mentality Ikigai?
No.
So, and I love this because it's another version of my version of skill, talent, passion that I came up with. But Ikigai is basically find what you love, what you're good at, what people need, and what you can get paid for. And the intersection of those 4 things is your vocation. So it's important to what I'm saying is it's important to consider.
Yeah, no, that's a really good formula to find out how to be able to get to the end. Yeah.
It's important to consider all the other aspects that make up for somebody finding a calling in life that allows them to live the lifestyle that they're after, you know, whether it's like financial freedom or freedom of time and place or whatever that might be. There's different ways of getting there, and simply like overly focusing on I just want to do what I love. That might not be the way.
There's different ways to skin a buck at the end of the day, right? We all do it a little differently.
But my way's the best way.
Yeah, clearly.
What's the
25 world records? Got to be.
I know.
I don't got any of them.
What's your what do you have to overcome most to get where you want in boxing? I mean, what's your, you're focused, you're physically gifted. Where are you weakest in that? What do you have to shore up?
I mean, right now is building up my confidence. Like coming from the top of a sport to the bottom of another has been mentally challenging. I'm used to like people constantly praising me. Wow, you're so amazing. You're so strong. You're this and that. To going into a gym where nobody knows who I am. And I'm totally cool with that. I'm a lifelong student of everything, and I really, really enjoy the process of being an absolute beginner at something. It's really is a blessing, that I have the opportunity to once again do something that's so physically and mentally demanding. So I'm not complaining about it, but it is part of the challenge, just like proving to myself that I belong there. And believing it, not even proving it, but believing that I belong there. Like I have a set of flashcards, and one of flashcards that I have some like affirmations, and one of the ones that I have is I belong in here. I've earned the right to be here. And I really have to work hard on believing that, because I do belong here. I have earned my stripes. I am one of the highest level competitors that I know. Like it's not tooting my own horn, but I've stuck through things that most people would never, that it's just boring, it's painful, there seems like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm gonna do it again. I have full faith in that ability, but sometimes, it's natural that we're overcome by doubts and insecurities. It's just part of natural human tendencies. And so that's one thing that I have to constantly overcome. And then there's a fear of failure. So there's there's such a high amount of uncertainty of like whether or not things are gonna work out in my favor. And then the fear that comes with realizing or thinking that, or doubting if I'm actually investing my precious time, which is my most valuable resource, into the thing that's going to take me to where I want to go. Right. I don't know that, right? Like we might be having a completely different conversation 2 years from now, and I might not have gotten a belt. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so how am I going to feel about that? And that part of it, of that uncertainty of not knowing if I'm investing my time and energy into the right thing, is a challenge that I have to consistently overcome. And it's through having people like Tristan in my corner that are reassuring me and that are encouraging me and believing in my abilities more than in my coach, more than I believe in them myself right now. That keeps me going. That's another one. And then facing fear. Like I have my struggles with like anxiety and panic attacks, and so man, like being in super high stressful situations and high pressure situations can become challenging, which I love.
Yeah.
But it's just part of a daily battle that I have with myself, that I've successfully been able to not only manage, but like overcome and have under control. And I'm prideful of that, but still like it's that fear factor again. It's like fear, insecurity, and doubt. And I think those main three things is what plagues a lot of us and what prevents a lot of us from chasing the things that we want to do. And so on a daily basis, there's so many strings that are pulling me in the opposite direction of like, you don't need to do this, right? Like you don't have to put yourself in these uncomfortable situations. You can choose a much safer career path. Like, why don't I just go be a PT, open up a bunch of PT clinics, and like chain it, which we also will. But I'm distracted on a daily basis by this goal that seems so impossible and far-fetched, which I'm constantly told that it is, right? I spend at least 6 to 8 hours between training and recovering and going to and from training, and then I'm mentally exhausted the rest of the day. So it's like, is this going to pay off at the end? And I believe it will. And because of the mentality that I've had so far of this is the type of person I am. I'm the type of person that starts something and fucking finishes it, no matter what. Yesterday on the hike up, right? You came down and you asked me if you wanted me to carry the rock. I'm like, no fucking way. Like I'll be on this hill until midnight if I have to, but I'm gonna finish what I started, because that's the type of person I am.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people, they tell themselves that, and for most of the time they're good with that. But when they get exhausted, as they say, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So it's like, no, nobody's taking this thing. But eventually you get beat down, you get tired, somebody comes back, you're like, okay, maybe you can take it for 100 yards and I'll take it. So you can, like, I think a lot of people have this standard, but they don't stick to it like, well, both you did yesterday. because I would have taken the rock too. But it's like really easy to say, no, nobody's taking this. But when the going gets tough, people get tested. And when they get tested, then sometimes they fold, even though it goes against what they've been telling them, this narrative they've been telling themselves. When shit really hits the fan, people waver, but it doesn't sound like you do.
There's a lack of honesty in that decision, because in a lack of self-awareness. Like, you need to be self-aware enough to understand that your actions determine the type of person that you are. And once you are honest with yourself about that, then you're going to start making very different decisions, knowing that every action that you take, every decision you make shapes you in one way or another. And maybe people don't think this introspectively about it. I know I do. I know I've spent a lot of time being introspective and thinking about how my actions impact the type of person I am, and that's just, I think that's, if people started thinking about their actions in that way, they would act very differently.
They can start with doing little things. You know what I mean? I think like we can talk up how resilient all of us are, you know what I mean? And how but we all got here somehow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my whole message and what I try to push to people is like we got to start with some baby steps for people. Cause a lot of people they're just so married into this mentality of just I'm gonna put the rock down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't, and the fear, the pain, like all the shit, they got to start somewhere. And, it's like, we all talk at a high level at this table because all of us are high level performers and in our own unique ways. But I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this, like, we probably struggle just to get through to the end of the day at work or whatever, and they got to endure through that, or whatever it is. Like, maybe it's a hard day at work and they're a pipeliner again, you know what I mean, or a construction worker, and it's like they're stuck in the mud or something.
It'd be a lie to say that we haven't been there, though.
Yeah, but we all, me and her talk about this a lot. Like, we get deep into it at night. It's like the amount of fucking pain that got us to where we're at today. If I was talking to myself 10 years ago, there's a different man there.
Yeah.
There's a boy, you know what I mean? And, we can all talk so tough, but at the end of the day, we all kind of got to start somewhere. And it's like just retraining and reprogramming your mind on those little things like that, you actually can do, like making your bed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to wake my bed. Like, make your fucking bed, or like do the dishes, do the laundry, fold the laundry, put the laundry nicely organized in my drawer. Like, these are the little things that start to compound and build interest into your life. And over time, that in a scale, if you're looking at an old scale, that starts to outweigh those excuses and outweigh those problems in our life that help to just, like, when you're really fucking in the dirt in a situation or climbing a mountain or whatever it is, like, you can lean back to, like, you can tap into that side of the scale. Like, okay, I made my bed. I put the groceries away properly this time in the fucking fridge. I cleaned all the dishes. These little things that I've been training my brain to do, I can tap into that and apply it into this mountain today. And that's that first step that lets you get just 3/4 way up the mountain with that rock. And every time, just a little bit. And eventually over time, like, it starts to become who you are, and you become that. So we can all, my argument always is, like, everybody likes to talk so strong and talk about how strong we've become. How I like to get into, like, how did we get there? What was it?
Habits become personalities.
Yeah, but what was it that got you to that? Like, what do you think for you? Like, for me, it was just making my fucking bed, like getting my 5 things a day done. It got me into my mindset.
I never make my bed.
You never make your bed. Try it.
It was just a tool that I used to
try it
help
for
me
30
get
days.
that
Tell me
list.
how you feel.
Or put away my clothes.
I'm doing something.
It feels really nice.
I'm doing something right now called One Adventure a Day. So it's like every single day I have to get out and do something. And, like, some days I just don't want to do it, but I do it,
Yeah.
And I think we're all, like, every single day going through things in our lives, like depression, anxiety, problems, people's problems, our friends' problems, the ones we love are stressed out, arguments with their spouse, whatever it may be.
Okay, I have an answer for you.
Yeah.
Like, what was it that led me to, like, start being this way?
Yeah.
It was a fear of mediocrity. Legit. Like, I moved to San Diego to play Division I soccer and failed at it. Like, I quit because it was too hard. And I didn't have my coach, like, boosting my ego about how good of a soccer player I am, right? And so I quit. I moved to Miami. I felt really bad about myself. And to this day, like, that's the only regret I have in life. Like, when I get asked that question, is I quit prematurely. And that became, I was a quitter. Like, that haunted me. That became part of my identity. because
Right.
I knew that I could have kept going. You know, deep inside, I made all the excuses and I told my mom and my friends and family all the reasons why I couldn't make it happen, why I couldn't become a professional soccer
It probably
player.
sounded good.
It did, right? But I knew deep inside
Yeah.
that I quit.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Miami and I became this like party animal. I lost the biggest part of my identity, which was being an athlete, which I was since I was 8 years old, you know? So I became a party animal and my grades dropped and I was this close of being kicked out of school and I was slowly becoming a failure. That's when I was young. I was 19 or 20. And that's when I realized I'm like, damn, like all those, like the people that I considered failures that are 30, 40, 50 years old, this is where it starts.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like either I strain up right now or I'm going to end up being one more mediocre person that has no value or contribution to the world. So who do I want to be?
Right.
Right. And that was the moment. Like, and it was through, I had a 1.6 GPA. Like I was getting kicked out of school. The fact that I was able to turn from a 1.6 to a 4.0, which got my average to 3, right? But that's an interesting story. And it was just little steps like that and the fear of being mediocre and the awareness of knowing that every single thing that I'm doing, every single habit that I have is developing a personality over time.
Yeah.
And it's essentially like I'm starting to carve the story of who I am. And so I became aware of that. And that I think that awareness is what's been driving me to just be better every single day. And it's like you said, it's
1% better.
1%. It's marginal gains and compounding interest of all these little habits and all these little things that you do on a daily basis. So at least at the beginning for me, it was learning how to learn in a different language. Like it was that basic.
Yeah.
You know, how can I learning about the culture and societal norms so I can be a more integrated member of this new group society that I'm in, this American culture, right? Step by step. It was becoming more organized and more cleaner and more hygienic and take better care of my mental and physical health. But it was just kind of one step after the other and all came from the self-actualization. What do I have?
Oh, it's just, I don't know what it was. Got it.
Beetle.
Yeah.
Just crawling under.
Yeah.
It was the self-realization, self-actualization of just what kind of story do I want to be able to tell to myself and to people when I'm 6 years old or when I'm 80, 90 years old in my deathbed. Like what story do I want to tell? What kind of impact do I want to have? And the awareness of that every single fucking day counts.
Yeah, I think some people have the attitude is like, I just need to get through today. What a shitty day. And some people have the attitude is like, I'm going to win the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's and then as you said, it compounds, but it's like, it's still just a day. What are you doing with this day?
Yep.
Is it going to be just getting through it and you're miserable? Or is it, I'm going to win this fucker. And then tomorrow, I'm going to win tomorrow too.
And you know what? You can even break the day into 4 micro days. Just from 6 to 10 in the morning, from 11 to 2, and then have even and that's the power of micro goals.
Yeah.
You know, that don't allow you to get down on yourself because you didn't make your bed and now your day's ruined.
Ed Milet's a big supporter of that, breaking your day down into, you know, Ed Milet.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing guy. And you have 4 days. Everyone else's day is 1 day. He's got 4 days. You know, that was huge for me because I always felt that way too. Like just naturally, I always felt that a little bit.
Good approach. Yeah.
So it's nice to have like these little frameworks that you can apply to the way that you think. It starts to make life. It starts to make life make a little bit more sense. You know, because like, well, why do I think this way, or why do I do this, or how can I do this? It's like these little systems can apply to people's lives so easily and take them to a whole nother level. Be a better partner, be a better parent.
Yeah.
A better worker, or achieve something that you want to achieve so badly, but you don't know how.
What before we get out of here, what's the tattoos on your what's that? What's the pressure? What's the pressure mean?
So I had no tattoos like a year and a half ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are all new?
I got all of this. Yeah. Fresh. And it honestly, it does represent kind of a version 2.0 of Stefi Cohen.
Yeah.
I just went through so much this last couple of years just in my personal life with my interpersonal relationships, both romantically and friendship wise. Like I grew a ton and the reality of the world hit me of like how people actually are. And I used to have this mentality of like starting everybody at 100 points.
Yeah.
So 100%, and then I deduct.
Right.
You know, based on what I hear from them, on their actions, on how they treat other people, little things like that.
Yeah.
And then once they get past a certain point, then they're out of my life kind of
Right.
thing. And I had to change that to starting everybody at 0. You know,
Then they earn that
and they
right
have
to
to
be your
earn
friend.
that, and they have to earn that. And so this version 2.0 of Stefi Cohen is just kind of a version of myself that I've had to build back up because of how hard I was hit by reality and just how much shit I went through over the last 3 years. And so my left arm is all kind of a bunch of like positive things, right? Like this is Nike, the goddess of virtue, of winning. Flowers, clock, Marcus Aurelius, olive branches, a badass, super strong horse, my birth year, memento mori, you know, a bunch of like really beautiful and positive things. And then, but this was like
the dark side.
This is really unconscious though. Like I didn't like plan this at all. It just kind of like.
Is it weird to like the dark side better than the light side?
No, I mean.
I do.
Yeah.
I love this face. It's just
yeah, look
nuts.
at this, like a demonic woman with like a really nurturing and like kind side, but then like we all have like that evil in us.
Yeah.
You know, what's that quote? I think it's from Tim Grover. Born bad, but learn to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what inspired this one.
Okay.
Right, and so yeah, Icarus falling from the sky.
Yeah. Too close to the sun.
Too close from the sun. A badass dog. The how amazing pressure is and how much it helps carve you into who you're supposed to become. You know, and I honor pressure, and
it's a
I think
privilege. You got to earn it.
it's a privilege. You know, like every day for me, it's like my biggest passion in life is to be a professional athlete. Like I don't remember a single time in my life, like from the time I was 3 years old and gained some level of consciousness, I wanted to be a professional athlete. Like it just brought so much meaning to my life, and I know it has an expiration date. You know, at the highest level, at least I can be a professional athlete at any age, but in terms of my capability to perform, it has an expiration date. And so every day that I'm out there and able to push myself to my absolute limit and experience pressure, you know, it's just really special to me. So that's where all of this comes from.
I like it. Well,
I also have a tattoo I got with Tristan.
Yeah? What is it?
I'm game. It's one of my most special ones.
What does it mean? You're down for whatever?
Anything.
Yeah.
Right? But in our case...
Wait,
What do you got? Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
she copied me.
In this case,
it
has to do more with like being spontaneous and being down for anything, any adventure, and not missing out on opportunities that
Well, that's how you guys met, it sounds like. You got
Totally.
on a plane.
Totally.
Yeah.
And not missing out on opportunities that might present themselves only once. And I do believe that all opportunities present themselves only once, like in that very context. So I don't want to be missing out. I don't want to be 20 years from now being like, oh, what if, like I wish, could have, would have, should have kind of thing. So that's where the I'm game comes from.
I like it. Well, I always end the podcast with giving the guests a brand new bow. Here's yours.
Hell yeah, brother.
I like that color too.
Yeah, I know. I love this color.
Yeah, it's sick.
Where's your bow at?
Right here. And Stefi, you man, yesterday shooting, you're so disciplined. I know it's like a new process, but you're so disciplined. Even out at Wayne's last night, hitting that balloon, you were just, I mean, so focused and you looked confident. You know, I mean, it's just like your dedication to, in this case, it was the bow hunting craft is evident, but your dedication to everything is special. And it's I've had a great time training with you guys, sharing the lift, run, shoot, my experience with you guys. And it's been a lot of fun. And then this podcast has been great. So thank you.
Thank you, man, for having us. Seriously, thank you for the bows. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. It's cool to get one from you, especially the guy that inspired it all in me. So
yeah, dude, Cam, it's so nice when you meet someone who is exactly who you expect them to be. You know, exactly who they portray to be online.
Very rare.
Yeah, and it's just so refreshing. So just thank you so much for having us and for the opportunity to getting to know you.
I gotta add to that. Like people don't understand your mentality, man. 55 years old.
Yeah.
55 years old, running up that mountain. Your YouTube and Instagram does not show the level of difficulty of that. First of all, it's
for real, man.
What did you say yesterday?
Yeah,
top three workouts she's ever done from a 25-time world record powerlifter of a woman. Only person in the world to deadlift 4 times her body weight.
That's amazing.
You got that fact right?
4.8.
Almost
5.
Almost 5.
And she carried an 80-pound pack to the top. Like that.
I know.
Bro, the fact that you did that though, like honestly, like I'm strong as shit and I'm young. You know what I mean? And like even our reps yesterday, you know, like
fun.
100 reps.
It was fun.
55 years old to be able to do that, man, is unreal. Like it is an inspiration.
Any age, really.
Any age, period.
Yeah.
But yeah, for anyone else that has to carry that fucking rock up the mountain,
Good luck.
good fucking luck.
You guys did great. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been so much fun hanging out and I love sharing this with people, and especially people who embrace it. And you guys have.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This has just been a great time. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Keep hammering.
Cheers.
See ya.
Keep hammering.
Step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They send their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel in dirt. Feeling like Cam Haynes.